I have given you the lead that you need to go actually do something for your people. Will you do something, or will you bitch about white people? Tell me.
Look, it's RB551. No wonder he got blasted. He's one of those older models programmed by a central computer. Not us. We're independent thinkers. Roger, 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 roger.
Damn, that's a shame, guys. I guess feel hopeless that any of this will ever change. I hope these conversations matter in some way, shape, or form for those that listen, because they don't seem to matter to the people I talk with. This one started off so nicely, so calmly, but yet I wish I could stop being frustrated. It drives me mad that people don't actually care and aren't willing to put in the work for the things they think are hurting them or their community, and would rather just listen to the mainstream media, feel like a victim, and do nothing. I don't know, man. See what you guys get out of it. This conversation is with Edward something. Thanks. I'm just. Is there value in this, guys? I mean, let me know. I really question the value in this, and feel like I should just. I don't know. I think not saying anything is just being the same. If I don't keep talking, aren't I just the same problem? I don't know, guys. All right. Enjoy this. And let me know what you guys want to do if you have anybody else that would want to talk about these issues. I have a bunch of other videos I'm going to start putting together this week, and hopefully they'll work good and be better, because I'm just going to be talking by myself. And I have to answer a bunch of messages that have been sent my way asking me to do a few different videos. I'm going to get myself caught up. The old lady's heading out of town. The kid has a job, so it's just going to be me and the dog, and we'll be here trying to make some videos and get some things out of the way and get caught up on some issues that we've hit upon earlier. And see you guys next time.
My name is Michael Wood. Since the age of 17, I've been willing to die in service to my community. In the U.S. Marine Corps, I was Sergeant Wood.
Michael Wood spent 11 years in the Baltimore Police Department.
Michael Wood is a very honest individual. He was not liked by the Baltimore City Police because he didn't play the good old boy network game.
As my career developed, I set out to understand why people offend, instead of how they offend.
The reason why these consent decrees don't do anything is because there's no enforcement or changing of the mechanism of incentives for the officers. So all you're doing is talking about it.
You're certainly was going to cross. I was ready to shoot if I had to, but I was never going to cross that line.
But you kind of wanted to shoot.
Sure. Get what you inspect, not what you expect. So,
or anywhere that's populated, is your metric is based off of arrest. So you don't actually go out and engage with the community, because that would be time that you could be getting the arrest that you're expected to get to prove that you're a decent officer. So you actually don't have any incentive to communicate.
Michael, we should be looking for goals to not have people end up in the criminal justice system. Instead, every solution we have is to push them into the criminal justice system.
It should not be up to Jeff Sessions to determine how Baltimore Police Department operates. It should be up to the residents of Baltimore. Jeff Sessions doesn't know anything about policing, never has and never will.
I want to read a quote that you gave the Washington Post, which struck me. You said, "When you work in policing, you're inundated early on with the us versus them mentality. It's ingrained in you that this is a war, and if someone isn't wearing a uniform, they're the enemy. It just becomes part of who you are, of how you do your job."
What I'm
I'm trying to say is that we are looking at people who are doing nothing new, and if we focus on the actions, then we can fix the things for next time. Because when you focus on people, we end up thinking we can chop the head off, they put a new person in and something will change. But if we don't focus on the methodologies and the institutions, then we will be
put them
totally
in a prison cell, do the paperwork, go back out and do it again. So what we really need is to change the incentives and disincentives so that no matter what the role, we're still going towards that objective that actually serves
occupation, more vehicles, if your answer continues to be violent, because we have to understand that everything about policing is inherently violent. I have come in there with authority and told you what you will do.
That's great. That's great.
So I love to see that you are wearing a T-shirt from one of my last remaining heroes.
There you go. Yeah, man. I love the band. I love Kurt, man. And I'm actually in the state of Nevada today.
Oh, perfect. Look at that. So it's nice to see you. My computer is down, so like I'll look down a lot so I can actually see you, because when I look up, I can't actually see you. I don't know where you want to get started on anything. I would like it if you could just introduce yourself quickly. I don't know enough about you. And some experiences maybe that you have that would lend some credence beyond what I know.
In the lens of my own eyes, I understand completely. I met with top Keaton Jr., and I am a third-generation longshoreman of a prominently black union in North Carolina. I would say that for a lynch crime, high school dropout, jack of all trades, master of none, and a self-taught scholar. I've actually had a poem published when I was in the 5th grade nationally. It was actually about slavery. And you would think in a 5th grader's mind, you couldn't possibly be able to come up with something so that would do anything of that nature, you know, to blow everybody else out. To me, it was just writing my own experience. So where I came into finding you was the YouTuber Sam Hoadley-Brill. I want to definitely give him a shout out. And I listened personally just to, you know, what you guys had to say. I wanted to just lend my own point of view.
Well, I am all about wanting to hear your point of view on all of it.
Yes, sir.
Let's say, so for people that didn't watch that video, basically Sam is a PhD candidate. I guess he's getting his PhD in some kind of deontology or something like that, where he's a proponent of critical race theory. And I flat out say that critical race theory is unabashedly racist and will continue racism unavoidably. So I'm very much against it. And that was the basic of that conversation.
And in depth of that, please share a little bit of that with me so I can get a grand understanding.
Well, so simply the easiest way to just say this is race is something that is a social construct. It is not real. It is not in genetics. It is not in DNA. The human is the race. Neanderthals were another race of us. That is a separate race. The Neanderthals were a separate race, but the humans are not a different race. This is something that was socially constructed. And the problem with things that are socially constructed is you as a society have a choice whether to continue them or not. And as long as you place people into categories that separate them, they will naturally group into an us versus them mentality, whether you like it or anyone likes it or not. This is what human beings will do. And as long as you continue to discuss things like race, or you continue to discuss things like suicide, no matter how good your intentions are, you will end up exacerbating and continuing the thing that you think you are against. For instance, suicide's a great example of it. The movie that came out, the TV show 13 Reasons Why or something like that, I'm sure the people who made this show really thought that if we talk about suicide, it will help us. But it just simply doesn't. The way human beings work is our life experiences end up giving us a multiple choice list of options that we can respond to at any point in time. So you can never blame somebody. Like I hate when people blame somebody for something they couldn't have possibly known. Like if they weren't taught it, what the fuck are you mad at them for? right? So you have to be taught something for it to be put on your multiple choice list of options in any given scenario. And as long as you talk about suicide, you put suicide on that list of possible options that someone can respond to. And as long as you talk about race, you will continue to put that thing on the list of options that someone could hate you for. And they really probably don't like you because you're an asshole, because of your culture, because of something you said, because of some problem that they had. And there's no actual way it can be race, because race literally isn't real. So there's no way that can be the actual basis.
I see. So you're saying socially, I would say, just the everyday setting, how you would perceive a person. I would say argue the on genetics, on a passing down. I would just bring up epigenetics. If you could know about the definition of that, I'd say that I take the actual definition. How inherent changes in our genes, so the incidence of a disease or condition within a racial group might actually be caused by environmental, political, or economic and other forms of systemic racism. I'd say that about epigenetics.
So with epigenetics, you're saying that there's geographically based differences?
I wouldn't say geographically necessarily, but I would say it would be inherent as far as, passing something on, something that to be true onto to whoever comes after you.
I don't know. What do you mean? Just slow this down for me. Maybe I'm not hearing you clearly. So the people that come out, just lay it out for me. Like, give me an example.
Okay, peanuts. Not every white person is eating peanuts, correct? But it is something that is passed along. Right. So we can agree there. Okay, I wouldn't necessarily say that hanging could be something like visualized, and then, okay, my kid knows what a hanging is as soon as he sees it. No, but it's something that I can't say that, okay, my grandmother saw it, and I don't understand the feeling of it. I don't understand how my nature would change, how I would react to it.
I lost you there for a second on your connection. I didn't catch the end of that.
Oh, I apologize. Spotty service. I apologize. But how I would pursue
we
it,
might have to cut your video, Edward. Cut your video real quick. See if that helps your audio.
Oh, okay. Is the audio any better?
Absolutely, 1,000 times better. Let's just go with that for now. I know everybody wants to see your beautiful face, but I'll find a different way to put it.
No problem at all. No, I just want to keep that part going. What if you could go touch on that?
I didn't catch it because of the thing being bad, so let's just redo it.
Okay. Well, like I said, the definition that I have, or what I took from the statement that I had, was how we inherit changes in our genes. So the incidence of a disease or condition within a racial group might actually be caused by environmental, political, or economic and other forms of systemic racism.
There are no racial groups. So immediately the moment they say that, I mean, this is something that is not under contention. DNA proves unequivocally that there are no differences in race. Race is not a thing. You will not find it in DNA.
Yeah, I agree there as far as because we all come from the same overall genetic makeup.
Right. But so then what is race, though? When you're saying race, I have no idea what you actually mean. So to me, my experiences are that when you say race, you mean the people that you are classifying in your own mind as those race. And I would say morally, you don't get to group those people that way.
Right. Okay. Okay. I can understand that.
I don't think you have a right to call me white or brown. I don't. It's like OJ said. OJ said, I'm not black. I'm OJ. Right.
That's right. Correct. I understand completely. I have the right to label you, no. But I can't get past that. We do still have those, and they do make a context of where we are now. That's the only thing that I say, that overall, that there is that makeup of the race that we can't get past. I understand where you come from.
Yeah, I don't understand why you're saying we can't get past it. Like, so is Sean King white or black? This is something I talk about constantly. Is he white or black?
Going back to what you said, genetic makeup, we're all the same.
No. So in this society thing that you're talking about, is he white or black?
Right. To me, honestly, like just being flat out, I didn't even know, he was white in that sense. I would have got Hispanic. I'd have got, any, because I just saw him.
I mean, I guess. So if you're going to just see him, then the conversation is irrelevant, right?
About his race, or?
Yeah.
No, in a certain standpoint, yeah. But would I say that? I mean, in a down-packed way, like, what does he check, and how does it play in his everyday role? I have to say, I have to wonder that too.
Well, I mean,
because we can't all,
for instance,
that in that sense.
But when he gets pulled over by a cop, he thinks he got pulled over because he's black. That's ridiculous, right?
No, not at all.
Huh?
Not at all.
Ridiculous.
For him to feel that way? No. I feel he can feel whatever.
That lily white motherfucker has been in white world his entire life. No one from the outside would ever perceive him as being black, ever.
Could you tell Eminem he wasn't black if he felt that way?
Well, I would tell him if he truly felt he's not black.
Okay, yes, and that me and you are in complete agreement. But that's the realism that I live in. I can't finger paint how I want to see.
That's what I'm saying. So, because he is psychotic and he thinks he's something, I don't have any I don't have any requirement to accept that. And I don't accept that you call yourself black. There's nothing about your complexion that distinguishes you from anything.
Okay. No, it shouldn't, and it shouldn't. I completely agree. I see where your lens is. But how do we bring in everybody else into that focus if we can't get past that? I'm from North Carolina. I agree that you're from Arizona. Or I would say live there. And growing up here and going to states in the South, I have to say every day waking up a black man is a full-time job.
Yeah, I mean, I totally disagree with you. Your struggles, there's no evidence that your struggles are any different than anyone else's in the current day.
I would just bring up the school-to-prison pipeline then.
Yeah, I mean, that applies to everybody. If you want to get into the school-to-prison pipeline, we can totally do that, but that has nothing to do with you being black. All the data says it has to do with your proximity to violence.
And that's another touchy subject. What would you consider a proximity of violence? I want to go there.
Physical proximity.
Okay. So if I live in a suburb and I went to school in the around the hood, would that make that argument?
Let me just give you an example. So as a drug cop in Baltimore, in a black city led by all black people, by this social construct, if you are white from the county and you go buy drugs in the city, how much higher do you think your odds of getting arrested in West Baltimore are versus buying those drugs in your suburbs from another white kid at your high school?
Absolutely none. But why is that?
No, your odds of getting arrested in the city are infinitesimally higher. You will not get arrested in the county.
For a Caucasian?
for white or black. You will not get arrested if you're my neighbor right now. I mean, this is a super mixed neighborhood, so it's a bad example. But if you are my neighbor, the odds of you, regardless of the complexion of your skin, getting arrested for drugs and selling drugs to your friend is essentially zero. There's no violence here. Now, for instance, if there was a violent family moved in next door who had a history of warrants and the cops were getting called on them, the odds of me getting arrested would escalate dramatically, because cops would be watching that house. And then the time that I go out and speed, or the time that I go out and do something stupid, whereas normally no one would see it, someone would see it. And then police officers are placed near violence. They're not placed near anything else. Their job is to go near violence and be around violence. And what that does is that creates the double victim. So somebody like a Freddie Gray in Baltimore, who speaking out in his defense is why a lot of people looked out, know who I am. But an instance like him where he's completely nonviolent, he's just selling drugs. If he would have been my neighbor growing up, selling drugs to me and my high school friends, he would have never gotten in trouble, never been killed by the police. Nothing would have ever happened. The problem is he sold drugs near some fucking killers. And so he got double penalized, as everyone else does, because of their proximity to violence. Is that wrong? Of fucking course it's wrong. But it's almost unavoidable for when you take a society and you put cops somewhere and say, hey, we're going to put these cops near violence, but the cops' job is to just observe and get any arrest and find any offenses that they can and enforce those things. So then you make a double victim of Freddie Gray's, because you're trying to get these killers. So he's afraid of the killers, and he's afraid of the cops, rightfully so.
I'm in agreement. Now I see what you meant by the proximity. Right. I understand the proximity limit now. I get where your lens is. Okay.
And so if people on Wall Street start fucking killing each other, I got news for you. They're going to start getting locked up for drug offenses.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, with the policies that are set, would you say that the race would, the racial makeup of it, though, also wouldn't play a hand in the policies that are shaped?
I think it has played a pass in some policies. We could probably bring up something, but we're going to have to reach back to maybe like the 80s, early 90s at the latest. And yeah, I think there's strong cases for then. And maybe if some grandfather is making an argument with me about how he's emotionally scarred because of the way society treated him from in the early 90s, if he lived in Baltimore, yeah, dude, I totally get it. Totally, 100%. But today, 30 years after that, we're not looking, there's no correlations to the complexion of your skin, to almost anything in this country. Now, I understand the whole prison to school pipeline thing, but and I understand that the prison population is disproportionately black. I get that. But you must understand that police do not respond to criminal offenses. They respond to the areas of violence. And when 6% of the population is committing 53% of the murders, I got fucking news for you. You're going to be in prison a lot.
Well, I'd also have to say it plays in a good bit with prosecutors and when it comes to district attorneys and new judges and elections and
yeah, man, you're wrong. I understand that you feel that way, brother. I understand you feel that way, and I understand, brother. I understand the media tells you this, but it's not real. It's not in the data. You will never do any research that disproves anything I've said. It's not in the data. It's only in the in the media and what they're telling you. It's not real.
To that, we have to be. Let's be touchy on that too. We have stats that get dumped. We have complaints that get dropped. They play with numbers too.
Of course, but here's what you got to understand: the way this tends to pan out. It's like plea deals. You know, plea deals are fucking horrible, and the feds use them to pressure people into guilty things that they didn't and stuff. But a big part of those plea deals is what happens is disproportionately, you're going to find quote unquote black people getting lesser charges for their offense, lesser charges. So we'll be like, oh, look at all these guys in prison for their nonviolent offenses. But
Yeah,
when
of
you go
course.
back and
Of
look,
course.
right. So they dropped the violent offense and they kept the drug charges, and then they say this is a nonviolent person, and they're just wrong.
But you know why that is, right? I mean, would you rather have $1.50?
Being locked up in the same area, they don't have resources. I understand.
I want to say this too. If the prison's getting $1.50 for you, wouldn't you rather have your probation officers retired? Go to the desk officers getting $200 a month?
Well, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what that's about, but the whole point of all these things in the system that you're going to point out are wrong. I'm 1,000% with you. My objection is they are not applied differently because of the complexion of your skin. They're simply not. There's no evidence of this.
Wow. Okay. Oh, perfect. I lived in New Hanover County. District Attorney Ben David. Across the pond is District Attorney brother John David. Perfect case and example. A friend of mine was once upon a time a drug dealer. Served his time, did his thing, but he gave a person a bag which they overdosed on. He received 7 years for that. The same a person of different color over the river with the same brother, I'm guessing they grew up the same way, I would assume, gave that person for doing the same crime 7 months.
Sure, and we're going to go back and we're going to look and we're going to find out that there's an escalator because of the previous offenses or something like that. We're always going to find another answer. Race is never going to be the answer.
Not out loud.
I agree with you on this. You can say that if you want, but let me go for example. Let me give you an example though. So all crime is interfamiliar, right? So the black on black crime is somewhere around 92-93%. And so does that mean black people are racist to commit crimes against other black people?
No.
No, of course.
And I would say that's because of way. I would say that wherever you're in the proximity of where you live or who you're going to encounter, and for whatever acts that are going to occur. I can also say that.
These are because of where you live. So the causations of crime, I've gone into this very deeply, and anybody can look it up. I wrote an article that says we know how to fix policing. We do. The strongest correlates to crime is definitely your proximity to violence, but that's not a cause of your crime. The causes of crime, the number one is environmental poisoning. Now, these things can go up and down, and whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, I totally get that. But the closest thing to violence is environmental poisoning, lead poisoning leading the scales by 1 million times over. So the example is, so by your theory, let me not go too far and tell you what you think. That would be wrong. So
I got you.
So let me just do it this way. What reason do you think that 6% of the population, your group, that you're placing yourself into, why do you think that group, 6% of the population, commits 53% of the murders?
I would say it would have to do with a wealth disparity. I'd have to say it have to do with the job turnover.
Okay, can we stop right there? Let's stop right there.
Yes.
Let's stop right there.
Sure.
100% right there, the first one. So income inequality, it's not poverty. Poverty, people say poverty all the time, and that's totally wrong. The number 2 correlate to violence is income inequality. So it's when you're poor and you live near rich people. Now, if you're all poor, no one gives a fuck. But when you see other people getting things, that just eats at our core. It doesn't matter who you are, what country you're in. When you see that, it fucking eats at you, right? So in a place like Baltimore, where you have these areas where the classes are hyper segregated, but they're next to one another, you have escalated violence. Now, the reason in Baltimore, while you have redlining as a history and all that, you can blame all that, but that's not occurring today. So the reason the neighborhoods look like that do have racist past, totally get it. But that's not holding anybody down now. What's holding you down is that income inequality being in your face. So while even though you might have a certain poverty level, if you lived in West Virginia, as those people are extremely poor, they're not nearly as violent because there's no rich people that live around them. And that seems weird, but that's what's happening. So you also have the lead poisoning that way. So the number one correlate is lead poisoning. And so are historically black geographical areas more likely to be lead poisoned? Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yes,
but that's not happening today.
Mm-hmm. Well, so we have the Kim Wars, you know about that. The Kim Wars scam that's here. Yeah. Well, I was just going to say we have that going on. Well, it's been rampant 1999 or so, I want to say.
Right.
And just now being found out. Yeah.
Totally. And this is going to take a long time. And I get that. Now, and I get if you're bitching about the echoes of the past. I totally understand that there's echoes of the past that affect people.
I'm for the future. Right. But I want to say about the future, though. I want to say it's about the future. We have nowhere to go if we don't know where we've been. So I must say that.
So that's where I struggle. So that's where I struggle, though, brother. In the fact that talking about this is the unavoidable thing about humans. Talking about it. So if we talk about how bad your great grandfather was treated, that's going to piss you off, right?
To a standpoint, yes, sir. Yes,
rightfully so. Rightfully so. Okay. I mean, 100%. You have a right to be pissed off. But if no one tells you that, you will go the rest of your life living reality with the TV turned off. And as long as you have those voices turned off, everyone will see that there's nothing standing in your way at all. What's standing in your way is a psychological barrier because of what you're being told.
Or not being taught. Or not being taught. I want to say that also.
Sometimes ignorance is bliss, brother.
yes. And I want to also hark on that a little bit because that's actually where we just came. I want to ask you this, just to see where your mind is. What did you feel about the last administration?
Trump?
Yes, sir.
Trump?
Yes.
I think I don't know anybody. I have no idea what anybody's truly seeing in their heart. I have a huge problem with the black community and liberal kind of, especially liberal side, not necessarily a more moderate or right-wing side, having been best friends with Trump his entire career until suddenly he was president and the media was telling him to do something else. I think objectively, regardless of his intent, the policies and the things that he were doing was going to improve things dramatically for black neighborhoods. And I'm very much a follower of Malcolm X's words in the dangers of liberals.
I see, and I take those words to heart, and I also have to bring up the administration plan of rolling back the equal housing opportunity.
Yeah, man, I don't know enough about any of those things. Whenever I ask for evidence about those things, I don't actually get it. So, and people will have opinions about how things affect, but then you'll see that the data doesn't do that. Like people think giving welfare or something will help, or maybe you should give things to homeless people. But humans are driven by incentives and disincentives. And when whatever you tax, you discourage, and whatever you give handouts for, you incentivize. And fatherless homes is a part of local instability, and there's no fucking doubt in the world that fatherless homes and the welfare system have done a great deal to damage to black neighborhoods and the white neighborhoods too. Any kind of.
And that would increase the violence. I would say that also.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to think like people like Thomas Sowell talk about this all the time. When you'll see that the unemployment rate in the 60s for black males was like 9% and for white males was like 10.2%. So
Yes, that's
literally
correct.
it was everything was backwards before all this bullshit. And I think that at my age in the early 90s we really grew up in an era where they were forcing racial blindness. And
Hmm.
part of my speaking out has been to say, look, you can't just be racially blind. You have to be aware of if things are coming out disproportionately and try to fix those things.
That's right.
I see that, but the problem is if
So
if you say
I don't know if you've heard about that. It's a lot of the woke cultures now.
sure, and if you say that it's because they're black, then you're continuing the racism. But the reason, again, the reason Freddie Gray was in his situation is not because he was black. It was because he was in that neighborhood in proximity to those killers. And he was a victim of lead poisoning. A lot of police shooting
Right.
victims are lead poisoned when you trace their past back. So he's a victim of lead poison. He's a victim of fatherless homes, and he's a victim to income inequality in his area. He's a victim to all of those killers that live near him. But if he was white, the odds that the police would have seen him and arrested him were way higher. You can't be white in a black neighborhood and not have the police notice you. I promise. You know, and so I always get bothered when they'll say, "Oh, I was a black guy walking in an all-white neighborhood and the police stopped me." Yeah, no shit. Guess what we do to white people?
White man. Well, I mean, overall, you know, being a cop, I mean, you know, what would you take, you know, from a white man being in a black neighborhood mostly? You know what I mean? In the month, right, or he's there to do something illicit.
Something. I don't work for that motherfucker. I work for you. And he doesn't look like anybody I've seen here.
Yeah, and I used to get that a lot, you know, especially coming from a suburb neighborhood into my neighborhood, that things were different and you could feel it. It was something that I didn't grow up knowing. It was just something that you just had to figure out. And Jim Crow is very much real. And I would say, you know, to the people that had to champion that, Ida B. Wells, Charlotte Brown, and Isaiah Montgomery, it's real to them, you know. And to be able to champion it for the generations coming next, I have to say that we have to put a stamp on this. To be able to say, okay, I'm not white. Oh, well, I don't see you this way. I don't see you that way. But I hate that everybody else sees you this way. It can't go on. It can't stand. You know.
Sure, but I hate it just as much that you see yourself that way.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, for instance, let me give you something that's really crazy. Let me just say something that's really crazy. And people don't really think about these things. So I understand that being here, and people who came here and are descendants of slaves, I get how you can see that is bad. But it was black people that sold you. And the most racist and caught you. It was black people that went out, caught lower class black people, and sold them in the slave trade.
There was also an African queen that fought against it.
Of course, but I'm saying as a whole, there will always be anecdotes that disprove any over generality, and I'm always going to be a generality person because I'm about policy and affecting everyone. But at all points in time in history, black people and brown people have owned more slaves than so-called white people at all points in time. And the areas who have had slavery and built their economies off of slavery and done things, those are the bad economies. Those are the losers. Those are the ones that are not successful. You're much more, the North won. I don't know why that shocks people. The one that wasn't built off of it is the one that didn't suffer. Africa is still in its pits because of a lot of those types of things where you're destroying your own people. And the most racist thing I ever heard in my life as a cop came from an African. And I never heard more racist shit ever than I hear from Africans that are straight from Africa, actual Africans, not Black Americans.
Of course, I agree.
So I mean, I never heard of any so-called white people say shit like I've heard them.
They don't see themselves as African Americans. They don't see themselves as as people that are here. And I understand that. I understand that.
He said a guy was getting arrested, and he looked up and he said, "Hey, brother, why are you doing this to me? I'm just like you." And the African guy said, "Oh, no, 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 no. I am not like you. I come over on 747. You come over on boat." And can you imagine a fucking white cop being recorded saying that shit? This is the world that
I agree.
And after I came out and talked about Freddie Gray and stuff, a lot of things that I heard was, okay, take your white privilege, so to say, and go talk to white people about all this shit. And I was like, okay, cool. So I traveled the country and I did it. And I expected to find racism in the sticks and the suburbs of so-called white America. And you know what, man? I fucking didn't find it. I found racism all among the liberals and all among the people that were talking about racism and how we should fight racism. I saw that soft bigotry of low expectations left and right, left and right. These motherfuckers acting like Black people don't know how to find the fucking know how to get a driver's license or don't have internet connections or don't have cell phones. Never in my life did I arrest somebody that didn't have a goddamn cell phone, and that was 20 years ago.
I'm with you.
Okay, so these are the things I'm pissed off about. These are the things that bother me. I don't understand how we can be arguing about shit, whether it's male and female and like, you know, gender's another social construct.
Now, in this day and age, yeah.
The idea that you know, the NFL is disproportionately male or man or Black is fucking stupid. The NFL is disproportionately people who have dedicated themselves to playing football. That's what it is.
That's it. That's right.
That's right. And so if you will find certain correlates, like soccer is correlated with poverty because it's easy to play soccer because all you need is a goddamn ball and to make up a goal. So that's why you have disproportionately Hispanic or poor areas that end up playing soccer. Basketball is disproportionately Black because go to a city. What do you get to do? The only thing around is a goddamn basketball court. You can't play football on the street. Somebody's going to call the cops for you. And you have like hockey is disproportionately white because it's disproportionately in northern areas where anybody in the right goddamn mind doesn't live. I don't understand why white people evolved to live in the freaking north. It's miserable. Go back south where we came from, where everything was supposed to be. But that's why
that's your European ancestry. That's the European ancestry. I want to be able to touch. I want to touch on things too about this country, and
Sure.
and where we stand together, and where we want, where we can come forward to go together to a better future. I want to be able to, like what Betsy DeVos out of the last administration, privatize schools even more. I mean, as far as, gutting the public school system completely. I mean, it's more people that rather be teachers' assistants with other 40-hour jobs, and where we go with the educating of the future. Because now, like I said, we're in the woke culture where now it's not just Black people talking about what happened back then and Marcus Garvey and everything else. You also have the whites in Nebraska that have never seen a person of color, that want to know the struggle of what it is to be an African-American diaspora.
Sure. What am I supposed to do about that? I mean, I get that we live in that society, but so let's see, like things like charter schools are very political issues. They're political issues where I've never seen anything that would suggest that Black people in Baltimore, so to say, or let's just say Baltimore, period. The people that live in poverty in Baltimore, they want to be able to send their kid to any school they want. They don't want their kid to go to the shitty ass school that's down the street. So I have zero objection to that charter school as a concept. Will there be problems and anecdotes? Sure. But on my second Joe Rogan appearance, I went over the data on this, and it's been studied and it's unequivocal. It does not matter what school you go to. It literally doesn't. What matters is your parental support group. So the idea that even that changing schools is going to change something or changing neighborhoods is going to change something, it actually doesn't.
Correct.
It's about your parents.
And I would also say about the what you pay your educators.
I would totally disagree. So that's a thing that I would also argue, or I wouldn't say I would also argue, that's a stupid thing to say. I do argue, and I'm arguing with you right now. Increased school funding is disproportionately correlated to success. Washington, D.C. and Baltimore spend the highest amount of money per pupil than anywhere in the entire nation, and they have the two worst school systems in the entire nation. It's an inverse correlation.
I would say in the South here.
I can't. No.
Yeah, I had teachers.
It's an inverse correlation.
I can understand your sentiment. In where I'm from, I actually had teachers that would look me in the eye and tell me, "Hey, if you're not catching it, I'm sorry. I have other students to go to. I'm not paid to sit with you." And I can understand, now being grown, okay, well, yeah, if I'm not getting paid, good enough, then, the hell with it,
Yeah, I hear you.
I would say that on a emotional, you deal with children, you have to deal with their anecdotes, like you said, and then on top of that, you're not being able to cash a check that you can keep.
Well, let me just say it this way. Let me switch that a little bit for you. I think schools and policing have a lot of similarities in them, and they have a lot of the same struggles. But damn it, where was I going with that? I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
It's fine. We'll get it back.
School, and the police. Oh, I remember what it was. So here's what it was. So when I was in Baltimore, right, these cops would say to me, I don't get paid enough to do this, right? And they would be making $80,000 a year, $90,000 a year with a goddamn high school education, a fucking box of rocks that can barely write an English sentence. And I'm like, do you understand how vastly overpaid you are? So I think the same thing applies to everyone's perspective. No one's ever making enough money to get what they're doing. And I always thought that was the funniest thing in the world, where you would hear these dudes that had basically no skill set except for the willingness to show up to work and were making 80 grand a year and thought they weren't getting paid enough to handle 911 calls and write reports about a larceny with the world's worst English. I mean,
they're
not getting paid enough.
And I would just going off of that, just how do we educate about what to not just say, hey, we were here and they were there, here we are now, to really put a detail on the things that transpired and not be able to say, hey, go to the National Black and go see it.
Yeah, I really think those things are for experts in their field and not for the general population. I think it will end up leading to very, very strong misconceptions about reality. And let me give you the greatest example. I was literally blown out of the water, not literally, figuratively, when I looked up the history and saw that 400,000 slaves were brought to America and 4.5 million were taken to Brazil. And it was like, whoa. So here people think that somehow America has uniquely benefited from slavery. When we're essentially the least of the entire world. At all points in time, these black and brown countries have had more slaves than America or any Caucasian white country, whatever you want to say.
I can agree.
So, well, you have to agree because it's just factual. But
I can agree. No, completely.
In America, we think that we're unique, or we think And we have these ideas, like, I think a lot of black communities have internalized that this oppression will keep you down. And I'm sorry, slavery wasn't as bad as what happened to Jews. And you may disagree, but dude, I'm sorry, I can't swallow that pill. And the Jews were able to climb because no one in their community was telling them they couldn't.
Well, they also had a U.S. government backing. Also, I would also want to add that. But I want to go back to that. I would say it does. It would carry over. It has to. I couldn't sit back and know that the Confederate sons and daughters of people you were warring against are being paid still to this day to whoever's living descendant of it. And I have to be like, oh man, reparations.
What?
By the U.S. It was a military fund. It was a military bill that they put together for the Confederate Son as part of their agreement.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that you would have to see. I don't know.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, they were still giving monies to the Confederate daughters of sons and daughters of the
Sure, man. Nobody's gotten more handouts than black Americans. Nobody. Not in this country.
I can't agree. Nothing. No. If the GI Bill started it all, we couldn't get any of that. And then you had people coming. You had the overall Great Depression.
Small window.
Get it all. You know, white Americans were receiving it all. I can absolutely agree to that.
Not white America, an extreme minority.
I mean population size. I'm just going to go off of that. I mean, you know, we can quote the violent statistics, but the population as a whole, white Americans are
populations. You can't go off of population size when 60-some% of the country is currently Caucasian, and in the past, it was much higher.
Now, argue, yeah, or mostly Mexican, but I'm talking about then, where we were much more scrutinized on how our census were done, and in that they were proportionately more, and it was only demonized when African Americans were receiving it.
Kinda, but I hear what you're saying, but it's just, I would need to understand how that plays out in modern America when you can be born in a city, obviously you know that welfare is disproportionately black, and your whole life is handed to you on government assistance that's stolen from other people.
Disproportionately black? Disproportionately black? Or, I mean, well, I don't have a graphic.
Again, black schools are funded more per pupil than white schools, disproportionately, dramatically so. Welfare is disproportionately, dramatically more.
Are we talking about free lunch or just like over like Section 8 or
all of it?
I know more people that are on SNAP than are on welfare or Section 8.
Any of it that you're going to point out is going to be disproportionately black.
But we can all agree that it was a first a white Caucasian American system that benefited for them, and then when Africans actually were able to get into it.
I don't understand what you're saying, because the countries, the South again is gone. They lost. Okay, the countries that had slavery were not economic powerhouses. They were failures. This is not arguable.
At the great, Black Americans, in the height of the Great Society, Black Americans constitute only about 27% of all welfare recipients.
Right, but they're only 13% of the population. It's clearly disproportionate. It's twice as many. You can't have that with white people. It's a numerical impossibility. That would mean that white people would be 120% of welfare.
That would be because of the rough. I would go back to the rough gap. I mean, with that, could we also argue that would be because of the rough gap? I mean, if the median value of total wealth held by white households is 7 times
maybe in the past, but let me just say this: everything that you think you know about history is almost certainly a lie. So we always got to take all of it with a grain of salt.
I got you. Like playing with the numbers, like like we were talking about.
Right.
When they play with the numbers,
it's all a story told by the victors.
Okay.
So the truth is not out there. There's no truth out there to learn.
Okay. I can like
people do this.
What I have in front of me.
Right. Well, let me an example of people talk about crime like it's real, right? And so they'll talk about crime numbers when a crime is nothing but a police officer writing a report. The actual amount of crime is completely unknown. So I argue this all the time that all we do is infer from the murder stats, because murder is all we have that's remotely accurate.
Okay. All right. I can agree with that sentiment. I can definitely agree with that sentiment. And as far as going back to the point where we understand why that was our future, like I said, going back to the educators, if we don't teach any of that, how are we able to assess and be able to learn and be able to reconstruct our own thing and our way of being able to do things? Like I said, I was able to self-teach myself that, to be able to have a business, to be able to have an LLC, to be able to be my own sole entity. I was able to do that. But I wasn't taught that. I was told, you're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do that. You're going to drop out. Or you're going to be a felon. All this, that, and the third.
Yeah, man. I think those are internal issues. I think what's happening in the Black community is not something that I can fix because, who's going to listen to me? I've been going around for years and years and years, willing to talk about policing and willing to talk about how it happens.
I'd say that you're the voter. Your vote. It starts and stops there. With the administration that we pulled up, we have a Democratic administration, and mostly of us. Think about it. Overwhelming majority of Republican states. We can agree to that, correct?
Yeah, it's just, man, I'm definitely a person that would argue. I hate why is that a figure of speech that we say I would argue when I'm literally doing it? It's like I gotta stop myself saying that. So I don't think these things actually play out the way society is telling us. I'm a strong believer that the Republican and Democratic sides are essentially different sides of the same coin. I don't see these things as different. And I'm a strong proponent of the electoral college and stuff.
Yeah, I'd say that the Republicans push a mostly conservative agenda.
Man, I think they pretend to.
But as far as being from North Carolina and seeing a Democratic governor govern how he's doing during a pandemic of a proportion that we will never have seen, and dealing with Republican states right to the bottom of me, I'm North Carolina, South Carolina, and the vast difference. The vast difference. I'd say that the vote is what makes and breaks how we correlate with our educators and everything else, to our crime and to who we have in court.
Yeah, but how are you then explaining how all the Democrat areas have much higher crime?
Have much higher crime?
All the Democrat cities and all the Black-run cities are absolutely shitholes.
So we would say mostly urban?
What do you mean? Well, no. Phoenix isn't that way. San Diego isn't that way. Jacksonville isn't that bad.
We'd say Chicago, like you said, Baltimore. Like let's say Chicago, Baltimore. Let's say I'd go as far as to say even Jacksonville, Florida now. Or let's say Florida.
Detroit.
Mostly
Minneapolis.
Cities. Yeah.
Portland,
but I wouldn't say that
majority city and their democratic policies have had homicide go up 800%.
But I wouldn't say that was because of they were Republicans or Democrats. I'd say that was because the nature of the
How could you
situation
not say
that
the correlation is like 1,000%. Show me the high crime Republican area, please.
So you're saying the Democratic areas are less policed?
No, they're more policed. Policing is not positively correlated with the reduction in crime. They're only positively correlated with maintaining the level that it's at. Right. So police keep
correct.
Police keep a lid. They don't improve or hurt. They're just a lid.
Keeping the status quo. Right. I agree completely. But that's what leads me back to that. I don't believe that it's because of them being in that area. I believe in there being the lack of education. Because I would say I would have to go back to say again, if you
education's not correlated with violence.
I don't know.
Broken homes, local instability, so you could have not having jobs. But I mean, back in the day, people with no education had tons of jobs because the system was different.
I don't know if I can. But now I can't. I don't know if I can say that now because you have, like I said, the majority of and I'm gonna say this because of the school to prison pipeline. The vast majority of African Americans in my age range are self-taught. They
maybe that's because their parents suck.
I have a lot of. Mm-hmm.
Your parents suck.
I'm sorry.
As a group, your parents suck. That's why.
I don't see how that could be possible. My parents told me to, if you want to know anything, find out for yourself. Don't wait for somebody to help you.
Yeah, but they need to teach you how to do critical thinking first. So one of my biggest shocks was that I was never really taught how to analyze and find information until I was in the second year of my PhD.
Mm.
And the whole world began to change for me then. And I think that's when the society started to see me differently as well and be like, oh, that I get called a Republican, I get called a conservative, I get called a Trumper, or whatever this is. I don't even operate in these realms. I couldn't
label you. I really couldn't. If you even asked me before this, let's just cut that for a second. Could I absolutely label you? I could not. Even after the 2-hour discussion you had, I could not label you because there's no way I could pinpoint who you are, how you view the world. Just like how you took to having this discussion with me, you had no idea what my interpretation of things were, and that's why I see this as far as how do we bring that together where we can actually be able to have that conversation, be able to say, hey, I agree and I disagree, but let's put it all out there. Let's not hold, I feel this way, you feel that way, but let's put it all out there. That's why I keep coming back to
setting the example.
I feel like you have to have knowledge of self to have knowledge of anything else. I had to know. My teacher didn't tell me we were the first civilization. Everything came from this place. This is how this was. This is where you came over. Matthew brought the Europeans through Canada and France, and we didn't get taught that.
Yeah, I hear you. And what I'm trying to say is at this point, I don't trust any of that information. I'm only going to trust what the hard data shows me, and I'm going to maintain a mentality that most of what I know is out of ignorance, and my opinions are rather invalid. I try not to...
I see. Yes. Okay.
So if you want to ask me my opinions, I'll give them. But I think they're irrelevant.
I see. Oh, no. I can't understand that. And I want to say that was a constructivist, right?
Sure, I am a constructivist. Yes.
But to be that conscious, I think has to be checked by. I mean, to be able to, you can't just say things happen and that's that, and we have to be able to check it. We have to really be able to pinpoint where things happen to be able to move on.
I think that's for the elites of their field. And I know that sounds weird to say, but we actually all operate that way. I'm not going to ask you for advice on liver disease because you don't know shit, right? So whatever you do, that so there's something that you do that you know way more than me. And I'm going to shut up and I'm going to do what you tell me to do in that arena. And so, for instance, when it comes to me and I'm police management, that's what I know. So I'm basically going to tell anybody that comes and gives me an opinion about police management to shut the fuck up. They don't know what they're talking about. And because they don't. And so you should trust somebody like me, or you really don't have a better choice than to trust somebody like me to manage police
and
situations.
That's how I feel about that. That's how I feel about that. So you have, and the educators, you got to think too, or some public educators are just people that didn't even want the job, so they go into a classroom with the mindset of I don't want the job. So if I'm doing bad, let me go ahead and tell them already and get it out of the way. When you have like that, you have that. There is no room to grow. And here's just a regular point. My wife, she's a very wonderful woman. I mean, very mannerist and everything, but way more than me. But she had a point where everybody in her class greeted her Caucasian teacher as her name, Ruth. But she and the rest of anybody that looked like her in her class had to call her Miss whatever. And that's what, and she a good student, perfect attendance, everything. But when she had to be told that you have to do this because I said so, and they have to do this because I don't mind it, created confusion, created a sense of analyzing your worth. And I have to say that has every bit of what happens when you leave a school system, when you leave a prison, when you leave a jail, when you leave a courthouse. And that why I say is, as a black man, is a full-time job.
Yeah, man, I don't believe that. So I don't know how to go past that. I mean, for instance, if I was black, I would be a police chief right now.
Hey, you know what? I want to touch on that because of something that happened here. I don't know if you heard about it. It was national, but 2 officers were caught talking about black people back and forth, on the body cam, and they also went as far as to say, hey, if it came down to it, the hell with them, kill them all, whatever have you. The police chief was removed, and guess who was interim? A white police officer was removed, and guess who was there? A black male. Oh, it was close.
It's usually a black female.
But it wasn't for because it was just time for a black man to come in. It was because they knew that once it came out, they were going to have a show of face to keep the calm, to quell it, and to shut it up.
Yeah, maybe, and I would say that's racist.
To me, it is to me too.
Yeah, I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist.
Yeah, I want us to go past being conservative and being like, okay, it happened, so what? Let's move on. I want to be able to say, okay, to my child, okay, you're going to school with, and they're going to teach you everything that I want you to know, everything that you should know, everything that it shouldn't be a job for a parent to say, hey, look at somebody in the eye when you walk up to them. Don't say anything that are embarrassing. Don't say anything that'll cause them to be mad at you. Don't run past an officer. That shouldn't be a mother's job.
I agree, but there's no reason to think that that's unique to being black.
Not unique, no, but it has everything to do with where we are, where our education is, who's teaching it, and why would a parent have to feel that way to have to tell a student child that.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, but you're mostly being taught by people approved in your. So I mean, all these cities that and these areas that have these issues you're talking about, the so-called racist areas are usually majority black with a majority black government, a majority black leadership, majority black police departments, and then we're still saying it's racism, and I'm sorry, it's just not. The correlates are other things.
Well, in where I'm from, it's always been paper plate white here. The first time a black chief was ever in here was because of a racist situation.
Yeah, but it should be extremely rare. You're fucking 13% of the population.
But like you said, a mostly black city. What? It's not like we said, hey.
No. Listen, brother. Police chiefs, police leadership is vastly disproportionate black. Way more than 13% of police chiefs are black.
I don't think I see enough of them, man. I don't. Maybe it's just me. But in a city where voters, that in a city with mostly black voters like Baltimore, yeah, I could see that absolutely. But in a place like Atlanta, that didn't happen until about 15 years ago, and that was all black, a majority black city.
About 13 years ago, bro. I don't.
I mean, I just have to say
right now, in the midst of the arguments,
yes,
there are vastly disproportionately black, vastly disproportionately female.
Oh well, because they were educated. They were educated in a different manner.
Yeah, I'm not.
A lot of them.
Yeah, I think that's a form of racism. What you're saying.
But I mean, that's just going off of where they were and where they came from. Think about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You think about. No, not at all. No, not at all. Not at all. I agree that you should go wherever your education is best provided. But I don't agree with public schooling to be whoever can take the job.
I mean, I would agree with all that, but none of that shit has anything to do with race.
It does if I'm saying that if you don't have a knowledge of self, you don't know who you are, you don't know where you come from, you don't know how you got there. It would make up in your own mind.
Dude, listen. These are fucking things in your head that you're imagining. And I know you don't want to hear me say that, but I thought I was fucking German. That's what I thought. My family's last name is Schilfarth. I'm olive complexion. I thought 100% I was German. I did my goddamn DNA test. I don't have a drop of German in me. I'm English.
Okay, and that was your realization, but you had to find that out. If you told me I'm a purple penguin every day of my life, and then one day I say something came in,
I don't know how I came here. I grew up in Section 8. I went to bad schools. I drove to a different district so I could go to a good school, quote unquote, which I don't think changed the goddamn thing.
Were you ever derogatorily named? Were you ever derogatorily labeled? Were you ever put to a class by yourself and other people that look like you?
Did you think we're having these conversations? Because at 41 years old, I have a PhD and more experience in education than all the motherfuckers that I'm talking to, but yet I still got to talk about these things because they're sitting here prejudging me constantly.
Yeah, no, that's not my prejudgment. That was just me asking, like, if you've ever had the experience. Have you ever had the experience from multiple suspensions because, I mean, not for a fault of your own, but because that your teacher didn't want to deal with you?
Yeah, I mean, I how would I know any of these things? I mean, this is all projection. I don't know anyone's intent. My experience has been, and my research has all shown that pretty much everyone thinks they have good intent.
When it comes to public schooling, I would just say that the black experience for public schooling is a lot different. It is.
It is, but it's not because you're black.
It is because I'm blue.
Because of proximity to violence.
But like I said, I was in a neighborhood like that when I was going to school. Then I ended up going into a neighborhood. A school right next to my suburb, Laney High School, actually Michael Jordan's high school. But I had the same outcome that I had at the neighborhood school that I did going into this new school.
Because I told you the data is extremely clear. This is only dependent upon your parents.
And I had two parents.
Sure.
And they both had jobs, and they both
you being there for you. That's what would help you.
Yes. But it helped. It did help. But I also learned by walking my own way. I didn't stay the straight way. I didn't get a business until I was 25.
Possible, bro. I don't think that's possible. I think
I literally had to go outside of myself to learn the experience of what it was like to be in the hood and I actually lived those experiences because I wanted that knowledge. Then I found myself.
What I'm trying to say is all of us have a perspective that is like looking out of the tiniest little peephole. And we're all largely ignorant. And if you think you know yourself, I would say you're wrong.
I have more knowledge of myself than what was me. I would say that much, because I had educators that told me personally, firsthand, I would never do this. I'd never make more than them, and all of that.
Yeah,
and I had to
I'll never be a cop. These things don't have anything to do with your race.
It doesn't have to do with my race necessarily, no, but it does have everything to do with who you choose as your educators, who you choose to educate your children, who you choose to elect to be able to put these people into position.
I mean, maybe. I think the idea that you think that you know what your vote will result in, I think is naive.
I don't think I know what my vote will result in, but I guarantee, just like how, like you said,
well, people just thought that putting in the motherfucker that wrote the 1974 crime bill was, what was it, 1994 crime bill, was going to fix shit.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. That yes, you're absolutely right. But I didn't count on him for what he did then. It's not that. That's not what I look for. I look for the Black Caucus members that he brought with him. I look for the people that he was going that was actually going to do about it.
Patronizing.
No, not necessarily, no. Because guess what? You have lobbyists. You have lobbyists that go out
to get is not real.
Let me say this.
Real. You can get a bunch of people with dark complexion to fucking agree with you. That doesn't mean you're doing the right thing.
Let me say this. You have lobbyists that go out to build that prison pipeline. There's no way that those judges got 28 years, $1 million bribes for nothing. They had lobbyists that went to them and actually told them, hey, look, we got this going on. All you got to do is put some papers.
They thought they were doing good, and they were naive and ignorant.
I agree completely, but it doesn't take away from what it was. And what it is, and how many
you, dude. If you think your fucking vote matters for how you're going to get treated, and if your vote for Biden you think is going to improve your life, you're fucking wrong. There's no history that's going to show that that's the truth. And you're going to watch.
I have never looked at any president for my leadership. I look at my leaders. I look at my local leaders.
Baltimore, Detroit, Portland, Minneapolis, St. Louis. You go on and on.
All people that have been paid to sit on their asses for the longest and are happy with it. Look at, if we're going to go to Michael, let's go. You talked about Ferguson. Talk about Michael Brown. Like, you had Sessions giving law enforcement military-style weapons to kill people, massacre. I can't ignore that. I can't say that didn't happen, and I can't say that the people that were.
What do you mean military weapons to kill people?
They were authorized to receive military-style weapons.
What is a military-style weapon?
I'm saying anything that's not a semi-automatic.
Yeah,
Can we agree?
No cops carry any weapons that aren't semi-automatic.
Well, maybe I will agree to disagree on that because, like I said,
no point to contend. No cops carry any weapons that aren't semi-automatic.
Why would Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, have to authorize it? If they all had AR-15 already, AR-15 already, why did Jeff Sessions have to authorize it?
An AR-15 is a semi-automatic 223.
Right. So what did Jeff Sessions have to authorize then? I agree. So what would Jeff Sessions be authorizing it? What military? Other military?
You need to know your argument before you ask me. If you're talking about the federal program that gives away excess surplus military equipment, they're not giving away M16s. They're not.
I'm not saying here or there what it was, but what would they have to authorize if they?
I just told you they're authorizing the armored personnel carriers.
I agree. Okay, I'll agree with this.
Ask me questions. This is what I know.
I agree with your sentiment, but that's what I'm saying. I agree. I have to look at my local government. I don't look at my president. I haven't looked at my president since Bill.
You just said, brother. You just said they gave them military equipment to go kill, and they didn't. They didn't. It's not true. You may have heard that somewhere.
That was the Attorney General. That wasn't the mayor. The mayor didn't call on the Black Ops. He didn't do any of that.
No, they have to ask. No, the cities have to ask the federal government for the equipment.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree with that. But that's what I'm going back to say, that I don't look at just that. But yes, a vote does matter in occurrence to how I have to live my everyday life. Yes, because there were like I said, I'm in the Jim Crow South. So Republican-led agendas changed the whole dynamic the last 4 years of my life. I can't disagree with that. I can't act like that didn't happen.
What do you mean?
Redlining districts.
What are you talking about?
Redlining districts. I mean, we could.
Majority redlining was in Baltimore and Chicago.
You have a strong sentiment for Baltimore, but I live in North Carolina, where they drew districts all over again, and they actually had to go to court about it.
All the time. Both sides do that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I had to live with those things. Like I have to live with the fact that they're ever changing because of who's ever in charge of the administration currently, or who's ever voted in Republican.
When people get their way, that you're saying they get your way, what you get is Detroit, Chicago, Baltimore, St. Louis. This is what you get. Your opinion in this matter clearly has bad results.
Wait. I'm going to say you're equating bad. You're equating black politicians to why black on black is prevalent, like why it's ongoing, or.
All I'm telling you is that nothing to do with black. I don't see black. I'm sorry. You can keep saying that. All these Democratic places.
Democratic race. So we're going to say Democratic being an island of what racial makeup? Who would you say is the majority of Democratic Party as a whole, racially?
As a whole, it's definitely white.
Yeah. Population-wise, size-wise, I get it. It's a flattering form of deflection, but I have to just say that it black.
Man, I'm telling you, I can't vote. You're voting.
I can't say I'm voting 5 black. I don't.
You're voting for the liberal that I just warned you about. That's who you're voting for.
Well, if the Democrat is bringing over a black politician with the same idea and the mindset that I have, why not?
Yeah, man. Who is that?
I mean, I'm not saying that it's a certain person. I like my governor, Roy Cooper. I've elected him on what he was on his standpoints and policy.
Like,
and
like,
I can say a lot. Oh, I was just gonna say he's done a lot more than the previous person that was in his position.
Policy. Can you give me a policy?
Of what exactly? Of his
policy that you wanted that had positive results.
That I wanted that had positive results. Mm-hmm. Oh, the task force for the conviction of marijuana. I actually wrote to my governor. I asked him to look into why there were disparages, differences between the white convictions and the black convictions, and they were astoundingly, astronomical. They actually did the study a week later. It didn't have to be all right, go ahead and do it, end it, and everything. He actually took the step.
No, you asked someone that had no fucking idea, and I just gave you the answer, and that person did not have that answer.
I didn't expect him to walk right in on it, but it's like the same as
because of the proximity to violence. Show me one politician that understands that the disproportionate issues with blacks in modern day America is because of their proximity to violence that is created by other blacks. Show me who's got the balls to say that, because that's the factual truth. If 53% of the killers weren't black, you would not have that.
Stats-wise, okay. I'll go. Stats-wise, okay. I'll give you that. But I can't say it isn't because of the overlying policy of it. I can't say that. I honestly can't.
No one's going to stop placing police in the proximity of violence. No one's going to do that. Black neighborhoods don't want that to happen. Baltimore doesn't want that to happen. Chicago doesn't want that to happen. If you were going to vote for like a federal politician, a president that would want to change that, you would be harming those cities and doing what they don't want to see. They want police near violence. Everyone does. You do too.
Hey, I mean, I'd say this: if JJ just beat up somebody and Tommy's over in his side smoking rocks, I think I'd and get ready to come back to the hood to see who's got another rock. I'd rather the police be on him, because what's going to create more the fact that the person that's selling the drugs or the person that's doing it, and I'm going to say the person that's doing it.
Again, violence is caused by environmental poisoning. It is caused by local instability. It is caused by like fatherless homes. It is caused by income inequalities. Those are the things you would have to fight. You would dramatically reduce. Hold on. You would dramatically reduce the amount of black people in your neighborhood arrested for drug offenses if you would clean up the lead. The reason you have that here in Phoenix. So let me explain. I live in Phoenix, right? You don't have these problems in Phoenix because we don't have lead poisoning. It has to be imported from other cities.
Okay. I just have to say that it also has to start with who's policing. I'm going to go back to that too. I'm going to touch that.
No, it doesn't. Policing is always the same everywhere in the entire world.
No, I'm not going to say policing as a whole. I mean where your police officers are, where they come from, where their makeup is, and how they police. Where they come from. Look,
again, fucking listen, bro. I'm not trying to be rude, but all crime is interfamiliar. Black cops are more violent towards black suspects. So if you want to play that game, then you would want to have you would want to have all white cops in a black neighborhood and all black cops in a white neighborhood if you want to play that game. That's a silly game.
No, not at all. You listen to what I'm saying. I don't know that to be true. As a 31-year-old man as African American man in North Carolina, I don't know that to be true. Every black cop I've ever come across, whether it be a good stop or hey, I'm just checking it, it's always a positive. Whenever you have policing
dude,
that
that's
comes.
what it's like for everyone else, man. The vast majority of police interactions are that way. I'm talking about the data overall. What I'm telling you, if you want to go find different data to disprove me, by all means, go ahead. But your anecdotal experiences don't matter to me.
I got you.
Okay? The data is extremely clear. All crime is interfamiliar. Black cops are more violent towards black suspects.
I don't know that to be true. That's just my perspective. That's
true. All crime is interfamiliar. Do you think that listen, 92% of black violence is on black victims? Do you think, dude, listen for a second. Your argument is that 92% of all black victims have a black suspect, but yet the moment they put on the badge, that fucking flips.
So if they're more violent, why is it that they're the overwhelming majority of white officers that kill black people? Is it because they're just their proximity of violence?
You don't know that. You just made that up. That data is not even captured. You're fucking making something up.
I'm just going off of the national, what we see every day. I can't go off of every place because I don't live in every place.
I know. You're going off of television.
Okay. Hey, I can't cherry pick the differences of Michael Brown or Freddie Gray. I can't do that. I can't do it. All I can go off of is what is no.
How many unarmed black people do you think are on average killed per year?
How many unarmed black men? Unarmed black men, I'd say a good maybe 65 to 70% range.
Oh my God. Okay, so now I need everybody who and yourself to eventually go to my Medium page and look up the crime stat thing I have. It's like the third article.
Okay.
Okay. Listen, there are only about 15 unarmed black people killed per year, and usually around 35 to 40 white ones.
Okay. And this is from this year, last year?
Every year. Keep going.
Okay. All right. And so the number never changes, never flips.
Blacks are over 16 times less likely to
believe the numbers. You just told me not to believe the numbers. I'm trying not to believe the numbers.
No, I did not say that. I said the only number you can trust is murder.
Is murders. That's it. Right. So right. So that's the only thing I can truly go off of.
I'm sitting here and I'm telling you murder-wise, killing-wise, black men or black people in general are 16 times less likely to be killed by the police.
And how many of them are completely unarmed? Okay. And how many are charged
period.
In a general sense?
Armed, unarmed, no matter what. Black people are 16 times less likely to be killed by the police. You commit 50% of the homicides. You should be 53% of the killings. You're not. You're pretending to know that which you do not know, and as much as I like you, pretending to know that which you do not know is a lie.
But we didn't know anything. There's only your view and my view.
We know how many people are killed. We know that. We know how many people are killed. We know homicide stats. We know that. So we can infer.
And they juke the stats all the time. They juke the stats all the time. They dropped 20 murders in Florida. Juke stats. You can juke stats anytime.
These are not juke stats. These are tracked by news stories, and sure, they could be a couple of numbers off, but the overall percentages are not going to be changed. Okay? They're not. You can read the data. I can give it all to you. But if you're going to think you already know the information, I think this is a big problem with the entire rest of the world. You're not learning. You know.
Well, let's go forward then. I want to go and touch another subject. The $50 to get out of the Explain that to me a little bit. I want to know how that works.
I've known multiple people that said, fuck this. They got into a cab, they left, they moved out of the city, and they continued the rest of their lives.
Oh, okay. Just laid it up. I got you. Didn't know they didn't have they had a choice to be on Section 8, and then they just gave it up.
Yeah, people act like you can't get, like, there's not money on the streets of Baltimore. You can go work the trap for 2 days, have $200, and you can leave. And
it's a choice that your father can't be in a Section 8 home. It's a choice that the father of your child can't be in your home because you're a Section 8.
Well, I don't know if Section 8 works that way. Maybe it does. I'm not sure. I understand that. Yeah, sure. That's a huge problem. I agree.
Yes.
And
that was
problem. Huge.
Yes, I agree. And in the beginning, yes, just like everything, things change though. I didn't vote for it then. I didn't vote for it now. There's no way I could have voted for it. But things change, and that's where I'm
again. And he was against it. What do you mean? You could have.
I believe in spirit. In word, he was against it. But if you're telling people, if you're rolling back equal housing,
to give welfare to black people, you think he wanted to give them welfare?
If you roll back equal housing opportunity, where you could actually have black people in the affluent white neighborhoods, then I don't think
rolling back equal housing opportunities. I have no idea what you're talking about. That makes no sense. He never did that.
Yes, he did. Yes, he absolutely did.
Right. Send me the data, and send me whatever information you have on it, and I will read it and put it at the end of this video.
Okay, hey, that's perfectly fine. I want to continue on, with a good vibe. And I now I see what you. So just hang it up. You children and everything. No father that can actually do it in the home, and just go ahead and go about your life.
Well, I don't understand why you would want to have the father not in the home. That policy is terrible. So I would go strongly against that. Is that what you mean?
I agree. But there it is. There lies the problem on both sides. In order to get that, you have to have the elected, official to be able to implement something like that. And the only people that I see with
the other way then.
No, that's what I'm saying. The Democrats are now pushing that agenda to end that.
No, they're for it. They're for fatherless homes.
No, not anymore. The agenda is flipped. Like I said, you know, once upon a time, the Republican, there were two separate, completely flipped entities. Like the actual Republicans of the day used to be the Democrats of yesterday.
Yeah. I don't believe that's true. I've researched it, and I don't think that's true.
Oh, okay. There's your research in mind.
That's something, if you want to give me the information for it, I will put it at the end of the thing, and I will admit if I am wrong 1,000%, absolutely. But I have been completely unconvinced by that argument. I used to believe it too. I used to be a liberal. I used to believe this shit. And then when I learned and I researched, I found out it was all false. They're the wolf that Malcolm warned us of. Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Oh, well. Those are
I think the Republicans are bad. I think the Republicans are bad, but the fucking Democrats are the wolf we were warned of.
And I love your takeaway from that. Like I said, through this whole thing, I love your lens. I love the way you look at things. I don't look at this too objectively. I have to take it with the actual idea that things can actually be better from this. And I hope for any of your listeners, it's the same way. I don't look at you objectively. I thank you for your takeaway. I really do.
I thank you. I thank you for engaging in this conversation. I think when you were saying earlier, this is what we have to do. We have to accept the example that these conversations can be had out in the open. We can have sensitive conversations. You can be somebody who can sit there and tolerate me saying you're not black as much as you want to put it in your email address. And I have to be somebody that can tell us that you can push back on. You know, that these conversations are what we need, but we have to be looking at them, like you said, with an eye towards the future and what we're going to do. I think all this woke shit is looking with an eye towards the past.
and I want to be respectful of everybody's identity in this world. You know, I can't say that your output of life is any worse than anybody else's. I love your output on life because it's your point of view. It really is. Then that's unique in its own.
Well, I appreciate that. I think we all have that. And I don't want to convince anybody to do anything. I'm so frustrated with how much the media has gotten into our heads and presented false information. It's like in science, you know, people say trust the science. And it's such a dumb idea. Literally the job of a scientist is to disprove all the other science. Science is a collection of things that are false, not a collection of things that are true.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. To reach a conclusion, and it's still, you know, it's still a hypothesis.
Always. You know, correct. Gravity is a theory.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Like I said, I love that I was able to be taught the way I was taught. I love my mother was an educator, and my mother wanted me to finish school. She really did. But I was in my own set way of how they perceived me, and I had to get out of that. I had to actually figure out for myself that was internal, like you said, it was. But to the people that don't know, I'm just
this shit, you know.
To the people like myself that don't know that don't know, you know, where, you know, how to fuse that together. I would like it to start, like I said again, with the education. I hope that we can really get into it one day where we can really educate our children about everything and not just them say, oh, that happened? Oh, okay, all right. I want to be able to just like how you want to understand and feel, you know, a child that doesn't understand 9/11, never knew what it was, you know, never experienced the building's fall. You know, you want them to have an understanding. But if they don't know it, how would they feel that personally?
Yeah, I gotta say I struggle with that. I'm not exactly sure. I'm very concerned about the bias lens that any of those things show to us. I'm very confident that Osama bin Laden thought he was doing something good for the world. I'm very confident that Hitler, right, and his argument. I think his argument would be convincing from his perspective, and I think the same is true of Hitler or Pol Pot or freaking anyone.
Yes, sir.
So I think if I had grown up around Osama bin Laden, I think I would see his perspective better, and I might agree with him. So,
right. That's what I was saying in a full-out lens view. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that your perspective is just yours alone. You have a lot of people that feel that way. You know, but to me, my lens might be just a little bit cloudier. You know, my patriotism might be a little bit more subdued because, you know, you just can't take away from certain things. I can't say that I was here for the death of Martin Luther King, but I can tell you I feel a pain whenever it's brought up.
Yeah,
because you had somebody
I feel the same. But
you know,
pain is unique.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, like you would say, Jesus Christ. You know, you would feel something. There's a feeling there, and I feel that every person, I don't care what color you are, has a feeling there when you mention race, and it's a feeling that I feel we all need to be able to have a one, you know, dimensional frame on. Like, hey, it is different, but don't let me take away from you. Don't let me take away from how you feel.
Let me ask. So let me ask you this. So we have. I'm hoping that anybody can type into the computer and find out that race isn't real. It's not a real thing.
It isn't.
Point to things like.
I do agree with you. I'm sorry. I do agree with you.
So, like, if we keep identifying that way, I feel like the knowledge of history can make us like want to gravitate towards one of those groups. It can make you say, "Hey, I'm black," and embrace that identity.
Right.
But that identity is harmful. I know it's part of your identity, and I know I'm telling you it's not real and it's not who you are. But
it's not it's just a label. No, you're right. It is just a label. But it's not my whole structural, constructional, makeup, and my internal background. Like, I don't wake up in the morning and say, "Hey, I'm black." You know what I mean? But I have to
eliminate it.
Want to see me and see the way I'm dressed and have an impartial view of who I am. That's just true. I don't walk out to the gym and say, "Oh, Jim smokes crack." I don't know that for a fact. But when you see me and you don't know me, and I got my hat turned back, oh, he's a drug dealer, he's this, that, he's whatever. He's whatever impartial makeup you give.
Yeah, I think you feel that way. And I think you're projecting that onto other people.
I don't know what it's like to wake up white. So I don't know what it's like to wake up white. I just don't know what that's like. You know what I'm saying? I can't wake. I can't put that. I can't put a block there that isn't there. I wake up and every day it's a certain way.
No, man, I don't know. OJ woke up every day feeling like he was OJ and not a black man. I wake up every day knowing I'm Michael Wood, not a white man. And I think if you would embrace that, you could understand what it was like to be anybody else, because we're not different. You're thinking we are.
It took him a second time and go to jail for real time to know how black he really was. And if you asked him now how he felt about that, I'm sure he would tell you different. But you don't know that because you didn't come up that way. You didn't feel that way. You didn't learn that way. That's what I'm saying. Some things are self-taught. Like I said, I was internalizing things, and then I found knowledge of myself. I knew who I really was. Therefore, I was able to lead a productive life. I didn't let one thing.
This is an internalization, as everything else. So if you don't give that to your kid, so essentially by continuing to live by race, you're telling your child there's a boogeyman under the bed. People have this concept that the black man has to give a speech to his black kid about what it's like to get pulled over by the police, but the data is clear that there's nothing different about him getting pulled over by the police. So you're giving him this demon that doesn't exist, and he's going to wear that demon. He's going to wear that burden, but you fucking gave it to him.
I got you. I just want to say a couple of things that stuck out to me in this point of topic. I want to just quote James Baldwin, if you don't mind. He only said that not only was I not born a slave, I was not born to hope to become the equal of the slave master. If you can understand that, like if you could really paint that picture in your head, I was not only was I not born a slave.
More slave masters are black, brother.
I mean, that more of them were slaves
to be the slave master. More slave masters are black.
In America,
and you fucking caught them and sold them. Your people did that, not mine. Remember that. No, stop.
In Africa,
no Europeans went and caught Africans and sold them. You fucking did it. You did. Your history, not mine.
Okay, and what did I tell you happened? Not every king sold slaves. There was a queen that fought against.
None of us did. None of us. You did that, and you're fucking blaming us, and I think that's gross. You did that. Your people.
I don't have any blame against anyone. I don't have any blame against anyone. None. We're past.
Listen, dude, if you're black, your people created this. This is your history.
The Black Panthers were passed.
Us Europeans, stop. Us Europeans are the only people that shed blood for you. We gave our sons and daughters.
Really?
Did you do that? Did your people do
that?
Not many.
Yes, we have. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying. We were honestly told
black soldiers on the Confederate side.
We were also promised freedom and land, 40 acres and a mule, and never received that either.
So the fuck what? There was just as many slaves fighting on the South as there were fighting towards the North.
The Confederates were, you were fighting, were given rewards. The people you were fighting were given rewards. That's the point. That's the point. Why were you fighting and me gave it all away? That's the point.
I hear you. It's not a laughing matter that you are internalizing that Europeans did this to you when we didn't.
No. I don't care. Look, Europeans are in the worst boat than me. You know why? The reason why you're in America is because they sent you away. You were the miscreants of Europe. Yes, act like that. They were criminals. So that, I mean, we're not talking about, you know, good people coming to America. The killers came to America and killed some more and took it all. So let's not do that. That's what I'm saying about that. What's that?
More so Australia. Hey, more so Australia, not America.
I'm European in descent. So let's just say that. But I'm just saying, why would you fight? Why would I have to fight for freedom that I should already have, and then you give it away to the people you beat? You give the statue.
Why should you fight for freedom?
You gave them statues. You gave them. I mean, you gave them money. You gave them. I mean, a whole Legion Club. I mean, how many Confederate clubs are there? I mean, hey, I'm just saying.
You have to go talk. No. You got to go talk to those people, man, and try to understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You can't just get your idea from media and what they mean. When I talk to these people, and I listen, man, when I have gone and talked to these people, what they'll explain is something entirely different than what you're projecting onto them. For example, Native Americans are the same way when it comes to the flag that most of the general Americans would be. They very much respect the flag, and you would think of all people that should not respect the American flag, it's Native Americans, right? But they see it through a different lens than the rest of us. They see it as a representative of the land and what they're fighting for, their safety and protection.
That are actually native. How many of the natives of the land that they inhabit now are actually native or actually of European descent?
Yeah, man, that's irrelevant. No, again, you're pretending to know that which you do not know. In much of Native American culture, especially my tribe, which there's the other side of my DNA, I give it out. I don't give it much, but there you go. That's really why I'm dark-skinned, and I thought I was German. But anyway, the story behind that is most Native Americans don't care about your blood. They don't care what you look like. Race wasn't a concept to them. To be Cherokee, to be Gile, just meant that you were following their culture. It had nothing to do with your worldview and your lens.
And they had slaves too, but that's neither here nor there. They probably don't teach that in their culture.
There are black Americans that had slaves, dude.
Yes, that is true, but not overwhelmingly over white Americans. But we're not. That's not possible. Hey, let me tell you something. I live 15 miles away from a plantation on every side of me. I mean, is that because of black people?
Yes.
No, it's not.
There would be again. There would be no slaves there if your ancestors didn't imprison their own people and sell them.
Hey, I'm past what Africans did. We're here now, right? We're here now. What did America do about it? America made it worse. They made postcards of lynchings. They made postcards of castrations. You get past that. How do you rectify that? How do you put
a civil war? They let their sons and daughters die. What do you mean? What did they do? Right now,
freedom.
Dude, right now, people are stealing through forced taxation.
Tell me, if you lie to me at every step of the way, why do I care what anybody has to say about policy? Why do I care about what anybody has to say about violence? You lied to me every step of the way. We govern our own. And if people don't see that by now, I'm sorry, but black people govern their own. The fact that you actually have court systems, it's just lucky for you. Black people govern their own, have for a long time. The murders that you think are happening, they're not just murders, they're actually things things that have been put into play, just like Italian mafias back in the day, just like Mexican mafia and cartel members now. That's what it is. We govern our own. Period.
Yeah, so let me give a scientific breakdown of what the difference between violence and aggression. So just so we can argue that violence is a biological malfunction. People will have a temporary psychosis where they commit a crime or an act of violence. They murder somebody. You know, a husband can come home and murder his whole family, and you can say, how did this happen? And he's like, I don't know what came over me. That's violence. When you're talking about something of governing your own, that's aggression, and that's what police departments are.
Yeah, of course. The departments that handle aggression with aggression. I completely agree. There's no police safety.
Black neighborhoods are paying cops to do that.
There's no safety.
The idea that you think the killers of these cities are self-governing, it tells me that you've never been in any of these cities and you don't actually understand hood life.
I would strongly disagree. Because if we could just go to Chicago, just go to Chicago, right? And we could talk about the rappers that were just slain, Duck being one of them. That didn't happen just because, he was in Chicago. He's been there his whole life. And when somebody from the opposite faction was murdered, FBG Duck. And when somebody from the opposite faction was murdered, of course, the biggest person that's there is going to be the first person in line for the shot. That's the governing system. That's the military. That's anybody you know. That's any administration you know. Period. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, but you govern. You govern just like the Native Americans. They govern their own, do they not? They sentence their own, do they not?
I'm not following.
Do the Native Americans leave it to the court of the land to govern their people, to judicially punish their people? No, yes, the answer is no. But the answer is they actually have to come to their jurisdiction. Yeah, they're under their own jurisdiction. That's what I'm saying.
No,
just because it's
federal jurisdiction as well.
I mean, well, to a standpoint, though, if you have a federal case, then yeah, the federal is going to have that. But their own people, they govern their own people, they sentence their own people.
But that's more like that's what a state does.
Okay, well, just because the black state isn't a well-known state or a government state doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It happens.
So you want to create a black state?
I'm not saying that it isn't already here.
No, all these cases are the state versus somebody. I'm just not following.
No, you saying on a local standpoint, yes, the cases are there, the crimes are there, the numbers are there, cool. But what I'm telling you is, when it comes to black governing in the neighborhoods that you're talking about, they're governed by their own. Period.
No, man. Period. In Baltimore, I would handle 20 to 25 calls for people requesting me to do the governing. Every night.
I mean, you're going to have a police call, sure. But I'm talking about things of the nature where you're talking about murders in Chicago weekend in Chicago. There are things that are in action that are good.
The vast majority of these murders are over disrespect issues because you have lead-poisoned people that can't control their impulses.
That's not true. I can say lead.
It is true, and you've never studied it. Again, I've spent my life studying this. You haven't studied it for a single fucking second.
There's lead in damn near almost any damn thing you can think of. I mean, but I'm just saying, it's not an overwhelming pouring red thing that's causing the people to shoot. That's crazy. That's asinine. People wake up in the morning and just blow their fucking heads off.
Hey, do you have a computer near you? Do you have a computer near you?
Yeah, I absolutely do.
So just type in the lead violence correlation.
Okay.
Look at the images. These are absolutely parallel graphs. Violence 100% parallels lead poisoning. Worldwide.
I can see the makeup that I can see the figures that they have. Worldwide. 1991 to 2014. I can see that.
It's worldwide.
Right. When I take away from the fact that people are their like I have enough sense to know the difference of right and
regardless
wrong?
of economic
Absolutely.
status, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of country, regardless of income, regardless of class, regardless of anything. Lead poisoning and violence are absolute parallels. Anything else that you're going to cite is an extreme outlier.
I got you. Let me tone back down. I agreeably disagree, and that's for me to have. And I don't have the studies. I don't have that, but you got to believe the numbers.
All you got to do is follow those links that are on that page you just typed in, and you'll have your answers.
I got you, but I appreciate your insight and just your general output of life. Like it's not for me to completely agree with every person. It's not. It's just I would love
this
that.
Isn't my opinion. There's nothing to agree with or disagree with.
Okay, there's the white truth. I got you.
I'm not giving you an opinion that violence and lead poisoning are parallels. That's not an opinion.
I got you. There's the white lie and the black male. I got you. Okay. there's a astounding difference. I got you. I can't go off of that because I don't believe in the lead poisoning to the degree you believe it in. I believe that there's different implements to kill black people. Yes, absolutely. But I don't believe that part of it.
This has nothing to do with being black.
Just lead poisoning.
Humans,
I got you.
Human beings are violent mostly due to their levels of environmental poisoning. Mm-hmm. Human beings are the most cooperative species to ever walk the planet. And our violence is an extreme outlier.
Okay, of that. Okay. And I take your sentiment. I would take.
It's not self-governing. It's not fucking rational. If you were self-governing, you wouldn't go kill somebody. It has no ability. Capital punishment, corporal punishment is inversely correlated to violence reduction. It doesn't do anything. So if you were actually trying to police your own, you would do something entirely different, like clean up the lead.
Oh, and it takes knowledge to know that. It takes the knowledge of that to know that. But
right, so instead of killing somebody, I think that if you're going to self-govern, you may want to learn what the fuck you're doing first.
Hey, nobody told the Italian mafia how to deal with their own. They just did it.
They did it wrong. They did it wrong.
And people are justification. But there is and for it to have gotten to the point where they had to govern themselves, something had to happen for them to be in their governing body first. So if you can't trust the players, you can't deal with them, you can't go to them as many people that would like to, then yes, I would think something would change where you would deal with it in your own way.
Why do black people go to the police more often than white people do, in your view?
Why do they? I don't know that to be true. I don't know that.
Yeah, man. Every time you're going to talk about some black guy being killed by the cops that you think is racist, it's going to be a black person that called the cops on him. Tamir Rice was called the police were called on Tamir Rice by a black grandmother who lived in the neighborhood. When I handled my 20-some 911 calls every day in black neighborhoods, it was all black people doing it. There are vastly disproportional 911 calls from black people than from white people. This is not a mystery.
Both in James 911 call person was a white person calling on her.
Yeah, I mean, you can still have anecdotes all you want. I told you I don't give a fuck. The overall percentages are dramatically higher. White people as a group, all the police, hell of a lot less than black people do.
I don't know why they would be labels for
the black city with all the black police. It's not funny.
In Baltimore, yes, I can absolutely agree that black people call the police more. Yes, because it's Baltimore. I mean, what is the majority of the downtown area is black. So yes, I would assume that if a crime was being done in a black neighborhood, it's going to be called on by a black person. That's no antidote. That's fact.
You take the whole I'm asking you to take the whole nation because we're talking about policies and things that affect everybody.
The black people in North Carolina, black people would be the last person to call the police. I'm just saying that from living here 31 years.
Pull up the data and find out if that's true.
And like you said, don't believe the numbers.
It's not true.
I can't believe
it's not true. You're pretending to know that which you do not know, and that is indistinguishable from a lie.
I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. I completely agree. I can just go on my own walk of life.
Right, you can say that your experiences don't explain that, but you can pull up the 911 call databases and see where the calls are coming from. It's not going to be a mystery. It's going to be a majority black, vastly disproportionately black.
Okay. And I'll agree to disagree.
People are told to avoid the police.
I've never heard that in my life. I've heard it completely opposite all my life. I guess that's the difference between Baltimore and North Carolina. I don't know. But black people have been known to avoid the police in droves in North Carolina. Period. Because they're clavering members. There are still claverings here. There are still burning crosses here. There are still lynchings here. I was just 20 minutes away from me was a lynching of a young boy just 5 years ago. I don't live in where you live. I don't live with the experience that you live. I live in my own.
Man. So how many black people were killed by other black people in that time frame that you're worried about one lynching?
How many black in North Carolina? How many black people were killed by black people?
Yep.
Is that what you were asking? I didn't
outlier. You're pulling out one outlier and thinking it has value.
I can only give it one step at a time. I can't lay I don't lay it all out at one time. I'm just trying to
You're an adult, you're a grown ass man. You can step back and see the big picture. I have confidence in you.
Of course. But still, there's your point of view and mine. You still think that white people don't call the police as much as black people. I know different. That's just my worldview because I'm where I am.
You can find out the truth. I don't know why you're saying that. This is not something that is of the opinion territory. This is something that has hard data that you can investigate.
But I don't believe the numbers. I'm just following your advice. I'm not believing numbers, man.
I mean, so I'm going to police to show up and they weren't called?
Yeah, hey, I'm not going to say that they
cops volunteer. Cops just volunteer to work. Yeah.
In the proximity of violence for you. That's what I'm saying. They were in the proximity of violence, right? They didn't have to get called. They were already there. That's all I'm saying. They were already there, right? The police never leave the hood. They're always there because it's always violent. That's not true. It's not true. The instances of violence, especially, very unique. The instances of violence here are very unique. That's why I keep telling you it's by their own.
Everybody thinks they're unique and they're all wrong.
Okay, I feel like I used to have I'm a special person on my chain too, but I figured I found other people that told me different, and then I had to find out for myself who I was. If people come up in a certain way and don't know anything different, I wouldn't expect anything different. If you grew up as Jimmy in the suburbs, I wouldn't expect you to be Jimmy in the hood when you got grown. That doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I don't understand those distinguishings. I don't understand what any of that has to do with the data.
Say this. I wouldn't expect a white man that grew up completely in a medium to upper class lifestyle to give it all up and be on the street with everybody, with all the hood, with all the hood people. That just doesn't happen. But you do have white people in those areas that did come up like that, that became drug addicts, that became criminals, that became all different things and took different ways of life. It happens. Everybody's not the same. You can't group of people because of where they are. You can't do it.
You just said everything was unique where you were. I'm not following this train of thought. I'm trying to listen. I'm not understanding.
I'm unique. No, I'm saying the circumstances are unique. It's a unique. I'm saying the violence, any kind of murders are unique because they don't happen every day. They don't happen every week. They don't happen every month. You might have a murder here maybe once every maybe 2 months, 3 months, something like that, because it's unique. Because either somebody got robbed, either somebody tried to break into somebody's house and got killed for it, something of that nature. You don't have black on black violence just out here prevalent. It doesn't happen.
Like the amount doesn't have anything to do with any of my discussions. I'm talking about percentages. So the actual number is completely irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking numbers at all. I'm talking the actual fact of everyday being. The people that I'm actually around every day. The people that I actually interact with every day.
No, most murders are correlated to lead poisoning.
And then I can say every heart attack can be correlated to every cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Could I not say that?
So if every single person, let's just say, if the vast majority of people who had heart attacks had eaten 500 hamburgers in their lifetime, that would be an important thing to know. Yes.
Yeah. Right. But
it would hint at a causal relationship.
But it doesn't. It would be important to know.
All right, so let's just stop, Edward. Why do you think that 6% of the population? Why do you think that the particular group that you identify with is vastly, exponentially more violent than every other group in the entire world?
I'm always going to say the same thing: wealth inequality.
Welcome to what?
Wealth inequality. I don't see murderers. I don't see murderers each other.
So the whole world, you think they're governing themselves, killing each other because of income inequality?
Yes, absolutely. I don't see billionaires and millionaires murdering each other.
How does self-governance and income inequality, how are they matched together?
Because once upon a time there was a Black Wall Street. How did they mesh then? How was the black community able to bring themselves up?
No. Right now, the person who is committing the person who is right. So the 6% of the population that is committing 53% of the murders are self-governing because of past issues of income inequality.
Are the entire 6%? Are the entire 6% of the murdering people?
6% is black males. Black males commit 53% of the murders.
Okay, so that's not all of them. So there is hope there that not all black people.
What the fuck are you talking about? I just pointed it out. It's the extreme minority.
What is an extreme minority? That's a new term.
Any black killer is an extreme minority of the black population.
So you're saying that no one person can become a killer?
No, anybody can kill because it's a biological malfunction.
Right. So anybody can do it, but the 6%, why are they only doing it to only black people?
Malfunction. It's not rational. They didn't think about it.
But so why? Okay, if they only kill, if it's a biological thing and they only kill them, why wouldn't they kill anybody else? Why wouldn't they kill Indians on a murder spree? Why wouldn't they kill Chinese on a murder spree? Why isn't any of that being taught? There's none of that.
Black males also disproportionately kill outside their race more than anybody else.
Okay.
They do go outside, but the reason is because most of Black America lives together in the same group, the same proximity. We've gone over.
So white America all of a sudden really cares about how black people kill black people all of a sudden. While they were murdering black people by scores, now they care about black on black crime.
Black people have killed way more black people over the last 50 years than white people have.
I mean, on average, I could say that, but does it make any difference?
A white person killing a black person is an extreme unlikelihood. It's incredibly rare.
Knowing that black people kill more than they have, and it makes them go to sleep feeling better.
No, I'm not saying anything like that. I'm trying to understand why you think that blacks killing other blacks is some kind of logical thing of self-governance.
If I live around black, and of course I'm going to have more of an interaction, or maybe positive or negative, because that's all I'm surrounded by.
Right.
Why would I take that? I can't take that away from them. That's who they're around. Why would I take that away from them? That's like me saying that white people don't commit crimes against each other. It does, and it happens on a regular average.
All crime is interfamiliar. The problem that I'm asking you is why, in your opinion, you said it was self-governance. I'm trying to explain to you the self-governance doesn't make any sense, because why are you killing such a high percentage of yourself?
No. I'm not saying everywhere and anywhere it's like that. I'm saying in certain places, where you think it's just generally prevalent and it's just murders and bodies. It's not that way. It's the governing of what they have going on in their own intersect and circle. It's not just a random occurrence. I see this guy across the street.
That's incredibly
no.
But that's not. Men are the worst governors of the society that they've ever existed. Maybe they should give up their power to other people, because they obviously have no fucking clue what they're doing. If that's your position.
And guess what? Any different, because guess what? We're going back to educators. They weren't taught any different. You were taught how to deal with the things that you have, or how they come. You're not teaching them anything different. You're not telling them that, hey.
Despite the fact that you just looked at charts that show worldwide correlation, exactly parallel between lead poisoning and overall violence rates, you think that there's some kind of self-governance going on because they're taught this?
Between themselves. I say that between themselves, just like any tribe. Any tribe you go to, yes, they have.
Why are black people teaching each other to kill each other, and other people aren't doing it quite as much?
People aren't teaching each other to kill each other. They're teaching each other to defend themselves. I'm sorry that they're victims of that.
You're allowed to defend yourself. You can legally defend yourself. This is not what we're talking about.
But I'm just going with exactly what you said. They're not taught. That's not something that's taught. That's something that they had to actually govern themselves. That's what they had to govern themselves on. I'm not telling you that they went
other black people.
Not at all. It's a good idea to defend yourself against whoever. And it just so happens that, guess what? Just like how America has a Democrat and a Republican, there's Bloods and Crips, there's folks and BDs, there's different things. So guess what? They're going to govern themselves in that manner. That's just what that is.
So black people are killing black people because black people are threatening black people?
Black people are killing black people because black people are threatening black people. No, black people in certain places, man. Let's keep going with Chicago. Have a gang.
I have a crime area, but okay.
I mean, shootings. I mean, I agree, disagree. I mean, if you could show me a place in Texas that has as many shootings as Chicago, then go for it.
It's not as many because it's a size issue. Again, you're looking at overall numbers instead of per capita. Per capita is what matters.
Okay, but I'm just going up with that. They're used to governing themselves, and because they're in their own set, just like a tribe. They govern themselves. I'm not saying every black person that ever killed somebody was in that tribe. That's just majority of them have their own tribe.
Are white people doing that too? Do they kill each other because of self-governance?
Yeah, in prison, sure. You got the AB. Go for it.
No, in society, are white people killing each other because of self-governance?
Okay, well then you can bring the white knights on the outside, sure.
So Asian people are killing Asian people because of self-governance?
I would say the triads and Yakuza, of course.
No, in America, I don't give a fuck about Yakuza. Yakuza's almost
California, that's the Bay Area. Yes, sir. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Do you hear about it on average? No, you don't, and you won't. Because guess what? The first thing you see when you put on the news is a black man did this. Black man was arrested today for this. You don't hear, oh, Charlie got arrested today for this until about the end of the newsreel.
Do you think there's more mass murderers who are white or black?
Mass? I love that term now. Everybody's a mass murderer if you kill more than 4 people. So absolutely not. No way. But have there been actual acts that white people have committed in higher percentages that consumed higher fatalities? Absolutely. Look at Waco. I haven't seen anybody do that except for the Dallas shooter. And he actually was shooting at his oppressor. He was shooting at the police.
Talking about Micah Johnson?
Yes.
So you think he was self-governing?
In that instance, of course he was. He took his action into his own hand, did he not?
You think he was rationalizing what he was doing?
Do you think it was rational? Do I think it was rational for him to do that? What he did? No. But was it rational in his mind at the time after what had happened? Absolutely.
And you think that's a clear, coherent thing that somebody who has their mental capacities together?
Do I think, dude? Okay, well, let me say this. Do I think that it was fine for George Bush to send over a bunch of troops to kill people that had nothing to do with 9/11?
No, right.
Okay, then. It doesn't make it right, but it is what it is. You can't change what is. You cannot change what is.
I guess. I think they're being defensive, man.
No, I'm just saying, if they govern themselves, then just like the Native Americans do, who has the right to say anything else? Just because it's not legitimate, just because it's not on paper.
We're Americans. We are governing ourselves. We're divided into states.
Yes, correct. But that doesn't stop. They didn't stop the tribes from being able to govern themselves wherever they were. They still govern themselves. Okay, so what? So gangs, just because they're gangs, they're not. That's what it is. They're gangs. In your view, yes. To them, no. They're a government. They're a government over and to themselves. You are not many blood. Let's be real. Let's be real about it. Let's just be real about that. They're a government all to themselves, in prison or outside.
So why is it then that, like, when somebody gets shot, gang members come kill another gang members, the gang members pick up the phone and call 911 and have the police come prosecute the person?
I've never seen a gang member call 911. So that's a new one to me. But do they actually retaliate? Yes. That's what I guess our governing system would do. When we get attacked, we attack back. Do we not?
I don't know. I'm not following this line at all. Maybe I'm just too dumb.
But we do. Just like 9/11, we fought back. Just like when the gun thing happened with the guy in the movie theater. You know what I'm saying? There were a bunch of things to fight that. Things happen, and then you govern off of that. I can't be upset that black people govern themselves. I can't be upset at that.
So your argument then is, again, black people are governing themselves because they kill each other so much. Is that your opinion?
No. Not because they kill each other so much, because the police have a bad interaction with them, and there's no way for them to deal with each other. Why do you think there are so many gang summits where all these police chiefs come together with different forces and things to try to bring these people together? Don't you think if
they have no idea? You asked me a question. I think they do it because they have no idea what the fuck they're doing.
I'm with you. But you have them doing that because they know that you can only say so much to a person, to a group that governs themselves. We could we could put gang indictments on you. Yeah, sure. But did that stop anything?
Man, you really don't know like the real world and what it's like as an officer. Man, when I arrested gang members, they fucking all sang. I only knew one dude who stood hard. One dude. I arrested almost 400 people.
Yeah, but if you choose a way of life,
gang members and interviewed them. How many gang members have you arrested and interviewed?
None, absolutely none. No. How many have I been around? How many have I been around everyday life?
None when they were behind closed doors talking to the police because they fucking sing like canaries.
And me, we couldn't agree more. I agree to a standpoint. Yes, absolutely. But there has to be that police intervention there. If there was no police intervention there, you'd never hear about it.
I only intervened because a black person called 911.
I'm with you. Yes, black people call police. I'm not saying that they won't ever.
Let me tell you how drug cops work. Let me tell you how drug cops work. Okay? Mm-hmm. So here's what we do. Black people in Baltimore call 911 and report drug activity in their neighborhood. And when there's enough of these that are in the same location, then it gets passed over to somebody. It gets passed over to a drug unit.
Right.
Right. And then we go and we find those people and we start surveilling them. We see them do some buys. We go and we get the people who bought the drugs. We take the drugs off of them. We arrest some of them to build our case. And then once we have enough evidence, we do a raid on the drug dealers. And then they sing about everything else that their friends are doing.
So they're only calling about drug use. They're not calling about people that look violent like white people do, or look intimidating like white people do, or look like they're not in the right place like white people do. They don't call for those reasons.
Those are patrol issues.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I'm talking about gang interaction. Most patrol cops can't tell a gang member from a non-gang. What's that?
Absolutely, right. Now we're going. That's why. That right there is why they govern themselves. You would never. You can't tell one thing from another. You can't tell one case from another. You
can't. I can.
You can't tell one black man from another drug dealer. I agree. So why not group together? But not the majority of cops are like you.
Right. I understand that. That's why they don't know what they're doing. And they're not going to get their investigation. They're not going to find the drugs. They're not going to be able to do it.
That's what I'm saying. I can't be mad at a system that fails in one turn and then be happy because they caught the drug dealers. No. Catch the violent guy before he kills everybody. Catch him.
You can't catch him before he kills somebody. I mean, that's kind of Minority Report.
Every drug dealer is not a killer. Every drug dealer is not a killer.
No, I would say almost no drug dealers are killers.
And thank you. I agree with that sentiment so much. I do. But if you can't determine rationalize the difference between a regular killer, is a problem.
I can tell the difference between a trapper and a banger. I mean,
yeah, but not all cops do. I know, but in the South, that's all that it is. That's all. There is no correlation or difference. You're all grouped in together. Period.
I mean, maybe to the cop that's trying to treat everybody the same, but like, do you think that black cops are different than white cops?
In my experience, I'm just gonna go off my experience. I've had one black cop. I'd say five instances, because I'm majority, I'm majority white officers, but I have seen overwhelmingly more positive white cops that are actually there every day than I do the one that just came from the beach and just got the job and I just gotta lock these guys up.
So you think that white cops that just joined the force lock up more black people than black cops that just joined the force?
There are actually statistics of it here in North Carolina.
The race of the
I
cop.
don't know about everywhere else.
Right. The race of the cop is not
saying, I don't know.
so.
Okay.
The race of the cop. The race of the cop is not that.
I'm going off of the complaints and different things that they have for my county just in the last 4 years.
Cop is not tracked.
Okay.
That data doesn't exist.
Right, sir.
So all right.
I've been in one. I've been grand jury. I've been in one.
What's your explanation why a city like Baltimore has such a reputation for bad policing, even though it's black police department?
Because they got comfortable with no. Exactly right. I'll tell you exactly why. They live there and they know what's what. They know who's who and they know why everything is why it is. Absolutely. Yes. You've been to Baltimore. You know what it is. You know if you go to I forgot what the terrace. You know that what you're going to see out there. You know the majority of the people that are going to be there are dope fiends and drug dealers.
I didn't grow up in the city. I just worked there.
Yeah, but you're going to see going to the terrace, right? You know you're going to Franklin Terrace. You know what you're going to see, right? Hand to hands.
I would say when I first became a cop, I didn't understand the city, and I was very naive as to what was going on, which made me way less effective. So you're saying they're just better at catching the black criminals, black guys?
Right.
And so that makes them shoot and abuse and.
You came along, you realized that you were able to establish who was doing, who was not, who had an anticipation to kill, who was a more passive person. You realized that because you kept coming and you were there.
No, regular people can't see these things, white or black. Regular people cannot tell the difference. Regular people don't know what these actions are.
Right.
Like most people that call 911 and say that there's a bunch of kids dealing drugs at the corner, those kids are not drug dealers.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm telling you, the people that literally live next to the drug dealers cannot tell the difference. They don't know what they're looking at. So why is it that you think when they become cops, they're suddenly granted that knowledge just because they're black?
Because they're told, hey, you're in the violent, go to the where the proximity of violence is. You know why the proximity of violence is that way? Because of the drugs. It always comes back to the same thing. Well,
do you
violence,
think
drugs, they didn't get violent just because. They got violent because they think, oh, it must be a drug thing. Oh, it must be a gang thing. There's a reason behind it.
Yeah, it's called lead poisoning.
I can't equate that because I haven't lived that. I don't know lead poisoning. I didn't.
Why is it? Damn. Dude, if it's not from being black, then why do you? I'm still not understanding why you think black people, or what your explanation or justification is for 6% of the population committing 53% of the homicides.
All over the world, I couldn't tell you. I told you
that's just in America. It's just in America. It's not in England. It's not in fucking Africa. It's not in Asia. It's only America.
But I'm saying I can only go off of the places that I know of by doing research and by what I hear when we get told, just like anybody else on it from a newscaster.
Right. That's the big problem. Your source of information comes from the man.
Yeah, but also my weather predictions come from there too. I mean, I can't absolutely go off of that. Majority, they're going to be almost correct.
Can you just help me understand then why clearly is 6% of the population committing 53% of the murders.
Why?
Black?
No, of course not.
And why?
That's why, because of a wealth inequality. I keep telling you, I don't see millionaires killing millionaires. Do you?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet. I mean, who are we talking about? What's that old guy? I forgot his name. The guy with the glasses. Phil Spector.
We already brought
Who are we talking about? Oh, come on. When are we going to die? When are we going to let that die? That was so long. What about now? What about now? What millionaires killing millionaires?
Yeah. I mean, millionaires aren't lead poisoned. Do you understand that?
Oh, lead poisoning. God. And a lot of people haven't been racially disqualified from things. There it is.
No. So people who aren't lead poisoned don't commit. So do you know what white flight was?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So there's two big issues that took place in this country. Would you like to learn them, or would you like to tell me what you know?
I would love to take your interpretation of it.
My interpretation. That's cute. So the cafe what was that 19 I forget the exact year it went in, 74 cafe standards went into effect, and that's when they took lead out of the gasoline. So do you remember in the 90s that the whole nation as a group, Baltimore, Chicago, Dallas, fucking Podunk, Hillbilly, West Virginia, all the entire nation had a dramatic crime reduction in the 90s. Do you remember that?
Okay.
Are you unaware of this?
But why was that? No. But you equate that to lead poisoning?
Yeah, absolutely. So in an exact parallel
to the equal opportunity that Bill Clinton laid out. I'm gonna just say that.
Yeah, that's retarded. So in 1974, the cafe standards went into effect. There's a 16 to 20 year delay because you have to be poisoned as a child, and that shrinks your medulla oblongata and affects your impulse control and other behavioral issues. And then, so these kids, they'll also be violent, but when you're 7, you're not getting locked up, you're not hitting the system. So by the time they're adults and they're strong enough, to do something about it, and their time to hit the system, that's why you have a delay. So in the 90s, the lead being reduced out of the air created a nationwide reduction in violence and in homicides equally across the board. And then you can see that as lead was taken out of the air, it exactly parallels the reduction in violence in that 18 to 20 year time frame later. Then, later on, this affected black and white absolutely evenly, everyone, because it was in the air. Then, during white flight, what happened is people began to leave cities and move out to the suburbs. At the same time, we stopped using copper pipes and other pipes in our houses that contained lead in them. So they began building PVC as the water carrying system in the counties. And so white people began to stop. Yeah, there were wealthy black people too during white flight. But then the majority of people building these new houses in the suburbs, they ceased being lead poisoned. So that's when you start to get this big disparity between black violence and the violence of people who left the cities because of these old policies like redlining and stuff that trapped people into these cities. They ended up being continually lead poisoned, and they continue to be lead poisoned today. Flint is very low on the list of cities in the highest amount of lead poisoning. So now you continue. Right. So now you continue to see these parallels. You can look up if you want to keep interrupting me, dude, it's very frustrating. If you look up the stats for New York City tracked lead poisoning in their city block by block by block, and you can see the exact parallels literally down to the block in the reduction of murder 20 years later when Rudy Giuliani was in place, and they began giving the credit to stop and frisk policies in New York for New York becoming the most dangerous, the safest, going from the most dangerous city to the safest city in the entire nation. They credited Rudy Giuliani money and stopping frisk. But the truth was, the New York City Health Department got lead lower than any city in the entire country. Lead in New York City is lower than in the entire country. That's how New York became the safest city in America. This is the facts. Your opinion is fucking irrelevant.
As is yours, my friend. And as I said, I didn't mean to interrupt you at all, but if that is so true and there's so much lead, then why, oh why, is there rampant gentrification? Why would anybody want to be around the violence? Why would anybody want to be around the lead?
They don't want to be around the violence. But when they rehab these homes, you want do you want me to explain it, or you develop backwards? You have all the answers and will slowly realize that you don't. So what happens is,
racial makeup of it, or that's your natural fact, or is that something you were taught? You just think that I'm naturally underneath you, or?
So you're not interested in learning information. When these houses that are gentrified, they go in and they replace the copper with PVC. People don't want to live near the violence. That's why they're gentrified and pushed out. People want to live near some people want to live near I'm not gentrifying shit. Some people want to live near downtown and have the conveniences of those things. That's the base. Gentrification is a thing that builds up a neighborhood. It's not necessarily a bad issue.
I don't know. If you tell everybody, hey, we'll give you $20,000, you know, or anything you've never had just to leave so we can come in. That sounds pretty bad. But hey, that's your opinion of it. That's mine.
They're going to listen. They're going to leave and go into the suburbs and then begin to live in a house that was built with PVC, and then they're going to stop being lead poisoned. While the gentrifiers going to the neighborhoods, they get the lead out of their own houses, and then the cities become safer and the violence disappears.
Why did it have to be? That just leads me to say, why did it have to be in the first place? Was it a man-made? Why was the lead there in the first place? Was it a man-led thing? Did a man?
They didn't know
until white people came.
What?
Until the white people came and took their homes and built their own.
Nobody really knew about the correlation between lead poisoning and violence until it was taken out of the air during the CAFE standards. Just like you didn't know, this information has been in the sciences 100% for decades. Just like race not being real has been in the sciences for decades.
So you're trying to equate science to everyday living, and I don't. There's what science says they can prove, and then there's what is. That's just my standpoint. I don't see people over here. I don't see these places where these people are poisoned and these white neighbors that they have doing the same thing that they're doing. They're not. Like I said, it's a unique thing. It's unique.
What's unique?
Not every day. Murders are not every day. It's unique.
No, it's rare. It's not unique.
To see it on the average that I'm saying Chicago would see it. Down here, it's unique. It's completely on its own. It's by itself. It has no other. It's things with none. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, man. Everywhere you go in the entire world, they think it's unique, and they're all wrong. I've gone across the entire country talking about policing. I've been there over 40 cities, and every single time I go into a city, I hear some idiot saying the same shit you're saying. And then they don't fight lead poisoning, and then 30 years later, you're going to be having the same fucking thoughts, and you didn't do shit about lead poisoning.
I'm with you, but I did do something about the people that have anything to do with the people in my community, and that's cool. I can't do anything about smog. I can't do anything about electrical fires. I can't.
You just discussed about how voting. This is your argument.
That's what I'm saying is, when we didn't know about lead, we just had to deal with it. So just because I don't know,
man, all you got to do is look it up. You didn't care. You didn't care to know the truth. You thought you had all the answers already. Why do you think you have all the answers?
Nobody knew about it. White people or black people. Nobody knew about it.
In the fucking 70s, they didn't.
No, I'm talking about here where I am, Kevlar's here, right here.
Right,
where there's
ignorant is not a justification for something. I just unignorant at you, and you don't care. Why? Why? Why have I given you all the fucking tools?
Nobody knew because they were covering it up. Nobody knew. People were getting paid. Lobbyists were getting paid.
I'm telling you right now, Edward, I have given you the lead that you need to go actually do something for your people. Will you do something, or will you bitch about white people? Tell me.
White people.
This is your moment right now.
No.
You have been educated.
White people. What right do I have against white people? I'm just fine. I don't live in a hood. I live on my own land. What do I have? What right do I have?
Edward, you have been educated by one of the world's most educated people in this topic. And I've given you the answer that if you reduce lead about policing, if you reduce lead from your environments, you will save black lives. Will you fucking do anything about it?
Oh my God. What about the white people in my neighborhood? They're not going out there and doing the same thing? Why is it just the black people in the lead poisoning? Why? How? Are they superior to us?
I just explained it to you, literally.
No, you keep saying lead. If the same people are in my neighborhood drinking the same thing I'm drinking, why aren't they doing the same thing I'm doing?
They will. But you have, I told you already, you have to be poisoned.
I don't believe you believe yourself.
You have to be
and I don't believe
as a
yourself.
kid. Listen,
I don't believe you believe yourself.
All right.
I'm out.
I'm out. I wish you the best. It was really nice talking to you. I've given you the tools to make your...
Don't take anything away from this. I appreciate you thoroughly, for real. Michael, for real. I do appreciate it. Because nobody would have ever heard this conversation. Nobody would have ever had brought this up. I agree with the fact that
here is that you're not actually willing to learn and you're not actually willing to help your community, and this is the crux.
I'm gonna look it up, Mike. Soon as I get off, I'm gonna look it up, and I'm actually going to put the research in.
Right, and I will send you. I will even email you hundreds of papers in breaking this down. Right, but the question is, and I'm asking you. Listen, I'm asking you a question, man. Stop interrupting me. I'm asking you, after you look at the data and you realize how it is 100% scientifically and logically rational and how it's the absolute truth, I want to know what you're going to do about it.
Okay. And coming from a scientist that told me not to believe the numbers in the beginning, I will still look up the research and I will still have my own opinion of it. That's it.
What are you going
Thank you for this call.
What are you going to do about it?
The same what we're doing now, actually in our own community. Actually came together and got